Hospital port as pride and dignity. Stop the New World Order. Welcome to Panmo TV. This video has been, it's taken me quite a long time to make this video, and some of the material I filmed a couple of weeks ago actually, because there's an awful lot to put into it. And the reason is because this is a new instalment of my UFO Disclosure series. And as you know, I haven't done one for a while. The last one I did actually was in July last year, where I did a special one for the 70th anniversary of the Roswell incident. I also did a Panmo radio show, and of course there was Dreaming Saucers, or no, Roswell 70 as it was called then. The Dreaming Saucers was its follow-up, which happened this year. And by the way, there's going to be another one next year. I'll give you more details as they come along. But anyway, this is the first UFO Disclosure. The first in my UFO Disclosure series I've done, like I said, for over a year, so that's 14 months, and it's the first one of 2018. And well, the reason I'm making it is because something pretty incredible has happened, and I've got a clue actually, because I'm wearing my official UFO Truth magazine hat. Yes, I have been to the UFO Truth magazine conference, the 6th International UFO Truth magazine conference at Holmfirth. I've done a reportage. It's one which is actually, sorry, Liberati has just started. It's one that it's not quite as good as my previous ones, and that's basically because it was much more of a working trip for me, because I was selling my books, because I had my bookstall. Therefore, I didn't have as much time to do filming like in the breaks, and I tended to do like just little bits and pieces at the ends and the beginnings and things like that when I was going to and from the conference, or in my hotel room afterwards. And I was staying in Huddersfield, so I had to actually go all the way to Huddersfield for my accommodation, because you see, the thing about it is, you know, Holmfirth is a lovely place, but it gets filled up pretty quick. There's only limited accommodation, and basically UFO Truth magazine shuts the whole place down in terms of accommodation. It's quite amusing actually, because I think Gary Heseltine has become something a bit of a local celebrity, or a sort of local village eccentric, if you know what I mean. It's funny because I was actually waiting for the coach when I left. I don't know if I actually mentioned this in the reportage. You might hear me say this again, but I was waiting for the coach as I was leaving Holmfirth on Monday morning, and there was these two people in the queue in front of me, and we got talking. And they said, "What have you been doing here then?" And I says, "Well, I've been going to Holmfirth, going to an event in Holmfirth." And this woman said, "What's that?" And I said, and I sort of like, "Oh, here we go then." I said, "Don't laugh." And she said, "Oh, you mean you went to that UFO event?" I said, "Yes." And she said, "Oh, all right, okay." And she was quite open to it. She says everyone in Holmfirth knows about it. So Holmfirth is becoming the new Roswell, I think. Anyway, I didn't have time, I didn't have the ability to do the reportages I normally do because of that. So I stayed in Huddersfield at the Travelodge, and I travelled on the bus. And luckily the bus service is pretty good actually, so that was quite nice. I didn't get a chance to meet up with people on Friday evening, but that was a bit tricky, because I had well, they were all setting up the conference hall, and I got talking to these people at the Travelodge who were also going to and I ended up going for a pint with them, you know. So I saw everyone in Holmfirth Saturday night and Sunday nights. That was nice. Yes, I had a good time. It was great fun. Now, yeah, it's now. Of course, there's a lot of controversy associated with this particular conference, and I know that, and I have been through this before, and I've been talked about it on a Panmo radio. I've had Gary Heseltine on as a guest a couple of times, and I'm going to say a bit more about that in this particular reportage. I mean, I should say this video is not just about the UFO Truth magazine conference, but that is kind of the highlight of it. That's the central part of it. There's other segments in it as well. And of course, there was the usual action by the trolls. They phoned up the local. I think they phoned up the mayor's office in Holmfirth, and they said, "Did you know that one of your residents, Gary Heseltine, is organising an event for loonies and fraudsters and people who support criminals and nasty things like that?" And I'm sure the mayor sort of took it. Thank you, sir. Thank you for the information and things like that. But of course, nothing happened, because they know, like the lady at the bus stop. everyone at Holmfirth knows, and it seems everyone's absolutely fine by it. I mean, I never met anyone in Holmfirth, any local people, because I walked around with this hat on and my t-shirt and stuff like that. Nobody said to me, "Oh, what are you doing here? Get out, you bloody loonies," or stuff like that. No one said anything. And of course, nobody listened to the trolls over the matter. I mean, yeah, it's all kind of it's been a bit of a bloody. Of course, there's always this downside of things, isn't there? There's always this bad side, and it's funny because a few days before then, I was. This is a completely unrelated to the usual troll problem, but I was having I was on Kevin Logan's videos. I was watching Kevin Logan. God, I don't know why I watch bloody Kevin Logan. I honestly don't. It's a kind of guilty pleasure, I suppose. It's like, I think I'm like the two guys in the private box in the Muppet Show. You know, why do we always come here? It's just a kind of torture to have to watch the show. You know, that's why I watch Kevin Logan. And this guy called me a conspiraloon because I talked about the deep state and stuff like that. And I said, look, and he called me all kinds of other things. Like he said I was a fucktard or something like that. And I said, look, do you want to meet up and say these things to my face? Every time anyone's rude to me on the internet, that's what I say. Do you want to meet up and say these things to my face? And he says, yeah, mate, I'll meet you anytime. Come on, get. And so I said, okay, well, I'm going to be at the UFO Truth Magazine conference, you know, over the weekend. Come introduce yourself. We'll step outside around the corner, you know, out of sight of the conference where it doesn't affect anything to do with the conference. And we'll have to be careful what I say for legal reasons, but we'll have a good. We'll resolve the matter like two gentlemen. So basically, I did what I did with Droik. If you watch my confronting Droik video, that's what I did. And you know what? He never turned up, and I only remembered it afterwards. Oh, and there's been, of course, it's funny, you know, like normally I'd be going to probe. Now this is the really frustrating thing. Hang on, I've got to get my dragon's urine. Oh. There we go. Is he singing now? Bloody, he's fucking singing. Can't believe it. Can't he just stick to playing the piano? Yeah. Yeah. Normally I'd be going to probe. Okay, and then but probe, of course, is a bit of dragon's urine. I want to go to both. I want to go to UFO Truth Magazine and Probe. And I said this in my last reportage, didn't I? Some genius, for whatever reason, I don't know why, but the organisers of the Probe conference, Sam and Laura, and the rest of the team, they decided to book the conference the same weekend as UFO Truth. And so I was faced with... Basically, I was faced with having to miss one of the conferences, and of course, it's going to be Probe that I miss for several reasons. And I mean, Paul Armstrong, if you're watching, you want an answer to this question, you're going to get one. Paul Armstrong. By the way, thanks for the book. I'll be saying more about Paul later because he comes up later in this video. But why did I go to UFO Truth and not Probe? Well, several reasons. Firstly, UFO Truth is a conference that UFO Truth Magazine is one that I write for, and I feel like I'm part of the team, sort of thing. I'm not just a delegate. I'm almost on the staff. Even though I wasn't officially on the staff this time, I wasn't speaking, but I feel like I am. I feel obliged to go for that reason. I also enjoy it very much. I think it's lovely to do it, and like I said, it's only once a year, the Holmfirth one, and there's the Southern Conference, which is just usually a one-day event. And then and Probe, of course, is twice a year. It's every 6 months. In fact, they've already booked the conference for spring. So it's the March. It's the March one I went to. It's the September one I couldn't go to. So they've already booked it for next March. I'm going to go to that one. Third reason, the Lapis conference is on, and I'm going to that, and that's next weekend. And that's a nice replacement for Probe, actually. I've never been to a Lapis conference, and people do recommend them to me, and I never normally go because I go to Probe, but usually that uses up all my money and resources and time. But I have those are free now, so I'm going to go to I'm going to go to Lapis. Lapis is the Lancashire Anomalous Phenomena Investigation Society, which is kind of an affiliate of Probe. A lot of the same people go. It's at the same venue, same format, etc. But there's some really good speakers this year. It looks really good. They got Jenny Randalls. They got Richard Friedman. Oh, who else? I don't know. Richard Friedman's the cryptozoology guy. I'm particularly looking forward to seeing him. And Jenny Randalls is a veteran ufologist. But I'll say maybe I'll do a reportage of that, and I'll say more at the time. But so that's why I chose to go to Probe to go to UFO Truth, and I really didn't like that. I really didn't like the idea of doing that. I should always point out that there's no way that I would boycott Probe because Sasha Christie was there. I mean, I know several people, or one person in particular, shall we say for certain I know, didn't go to Probe because Sasha Christie was there. I'm not going to not go to a conference because she's there. I mean, you know about Sasha and you know about Larry Warren and everything like that, and you'll be hearing a lot more about that in this video. I would. There's no way I'm going to do that. I mean, I just if someone's at a conference I don't get on with, I stay out of their way. It's that simple. I'd be happy to share a stage with her if they booked me as a speaker at the same conference as her. I'd go on stage with her. I would just, like I say, I would just stay out of her way. So I don't think Sasha Christie being a speaker. Sasha Christie being a speaker was not in any way influential on my decision to go to UFO Truth. And if it had been another weekend, I'd have gone along there and I'd have been absolutely fine. I'd have just sat politely in the audience with everyone else, and I wouldn't have heckled her or anything like that. I'd have just sat there in the audience with everyone else. And I'd have just stayed out of her way. In fact, she did turn up to the spring conference. Did I mention that? I don't know if I mentioned it. She did turn up to the spring conference as a fellow delegate, and I only saw her a couple of times, and that was from a distance. In a conference that size, it's easy to stay out of people's way if you want to stay out of their way. Oh, interestingly, something amazing happened on Wednesday evening. I was actually going out. I was actually in a pub. It was a sort of pub restaurant with Sophie the Porter's poet and Chris, her partner. And I had a text message from somebody who I know, who's a member of UKIP, and he joined UKIP in the sort of the great wave of the great internet wave following Paul Joseph Watson and Sargon of Akkad and these other people who joined UKIP, and he joined with them. And he said he was going to go to the national conference, and could I come with him? It would be a formal event. I'd put on a suit and tie, and I could come with him. And honestly, I would have said yes if I hadn't been going to UFO Truth. And I said, I'm sorry, thanks for the invitation. I would go. But I'm going to UFO Truth magazine, and I'm not a member of UKIP. I'm not. People have asked me this, Ben, are you going to join UKIP too? And I said no, because there was a big craze on the internet for people joining UKIP. I remember, basically anyone who's anyone basically to the right of Joseph Stalin was sort of considering it because of the way things are going. And I said no, I'm not going to join UKIP. I think I consider UKIP probably the least phony of the mainstream political parties, but I'm not close enough to them in terms of beliefs to join them. So I just realised, goodness me, I've written a note down here, and I've only just seen it. It's nothing related to this video, I'm sorry to interrupt. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to catch up on a little bit of exopolitical news, because there's, of course, an awful lot has happened, hasn't it, since July of last year in the UFO investigation scene, so check that out. And now we come to the part of the programme where I catch up on all the exopolitical news, and of course there's an awful lot of that, because it's been over a year since the last show, as I said. However, I have covered a lot of the ex-political news on other videos, and indeed on Hapanwo Voice and Hapanwo Radio. So I'm just going to focus on the important stuff, or things that I haven't covered on Hapanwo TV before. Now, of course, the really big news, the ex-political news over the last year, has been the revelation of what the US government have been doing that in terms, I'm talking here about the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, which has actually been running from 2007 to 2012. Now, this story broke at a very inconvenient time, which meant I didn't cover it properly, and this was basically because it coincided with the publication of my book Roswell Revealed. So I was so busy promoting that, I didn't really have time to focus on much else. I was actually in the middle of the basis project, a big basis project recording at the time. I was in Devizes, Wiltshire, and I was with Miles Johnston and Colin Wolford, and we were recording a video for the basis project. It's called Colin and Ben Basis Chats 2, and you can see it on Miles' channel. And it was basically in the middle of the studio when Colin suddenly announced, hey, the Pentagon has just released a whole load of stuff about UFOs. And I said, what? Blimey. Yeah, they admitted that they had this. It's really amazing. This was actually on the 5th level of BBC News when it broke. So it's about as high as UFO stories get on the BBC. And it's basically said that the Pentagon has admitted that it used to run a classified UFO research program from 2007 to 2012. Excuse me. Now this, though, is 40 years after it officially stopped investigating UFOs. And the reason it said it was stopping investigating UFOs was because basically there's nothing to see here, sorry. And they actually reiterated their position due to demand from a White House petition. Do you remember the Disclosure Petition 2, which Grant Cameron organised? Well, they actually said, we have not had any interest in UFOs at all, and we've not investigated them officially at all since the closure of Project Blue Book in 1969. That's what they said. It was a lie. This project was being run by Harry Reid. Now, he's a senator from Nevada, USA, home to Area 51, very appropriately. It had an annual budget of $22 million US. That's about £15 million. That's a lot of money to spend every year on something that doesn't exist. And the official line is that the government were concerned about aviation technology by China or Russia. Excuse me. And they thought UFOs might lead to some clues. But this makes no sense, because the government has existing programs for this sort of thing. This is what the CIA for. This is the CIA for, the NSA, spy satellites, etc. You don't need a separate project, and you see all this all the time on the various documentaries about the Cold War and things like that, and about the post-Cold War developments in surveillance technology. This all came out actually because there was a radio show featuring two ufologists, Leslie Kane and Cheryl Costa, and then in an exceptional manner they were joined on the air by a former US Department of Defense official called Luis Elizondo, and that's basically where it all came out. And it was just after that the video was released, which was filmed in 2004, showing a US Navy fighter jet chasing a strange object in the sky, and you know all about that. There's tic-tac footage. Excuse me. So I got the yawns again. I either yawn or my nose itches and I cough when I'm talking. And I'm coughing. So you know all about the tic-tac footage. And there was David Fravor, the pilot, was interviewed talking about this. And unbelievably, the media have done something they've never done before. Never. They've taken the unprecedented step of asking Nick Pope to comment. I'm being sarcastic, of course. And he said, it's an extraordinary revelation, not least because it directly contradicts many of the specific denials that the US government have issued previously when asked about this subject and their involvement in it. The take-home message here is that there's probably something out there, but we don't know what it is. Right. Well, that's the usual papal caution there, which we're all familiar with. But he's right about the government's denials in the past. Now, this in itself, I spoke to Stephen Bassett about this, and I actually had Stephen Bassett on as a guest on my show again. I might play the interview on a programme. If not, you can go to Panwo Radio and listen to it now if you like. But we said, look, this story in itself is not revolutionary in nature, but it's still intriguing. And it was quite amazing that all this stuff came out around about the same time. Just before Christmas last year, there was a large volume of material released at the same time. Now, I know a lot of it has been questioned. People like Richard Dolan have looked into this, and they've said there's some anomalies. But Of course, if it's disinformation, what exactly is it trying to disinform? There's only a limit. You know, it's a kind of, there's a limit to how much you can do if you're trying to cover things up. If you go around telling everyone, "Oh look, come and look over here, guys." This is the problem I have with the Mark Pilkington line about how the whole thing is just a big sham. Do you see what I mean? But that, of course, is the big news. And I mean, I have mentioned this on other videos. I've just talked, especially my UFO reply video to Steve Mumbling. I'm not going to put all these links in the description box. You can find them. But of course, people like James Oberg are still saying, "Oh, you know, nothing will convince these guys." I mean, if a UFO landed on the White House lawn, as per the usual cliche, people like James Oberg would just say, "Oh, it's a bouncy castle. It's a strangely shaped bouncy castle. It must be Baron Trump's birthday," something like that. That's the level they're at, I'm afraid. So we're going to have to move. We're going to have to move on without these people, no matter what happens. The skeptics will be the skeptics, and that's the end of it. I find this fascinating now, and I think it's led, of course, to Tom DeLonge, To the Stars Academy, which came out around about the same time. There was lots of revelations about how Bob Bigelow was involved. I mean, Bob Bigelow is this ultra-rich philanthropist who funds a lot of projects, like the Skinwalker Research Project. A new video, excuse me, a new film's just been released about that. So I haven't seen it yet, but I want to see it. And that looks really, really good, by Jeremy Corbell. So that's pretty. So there's a lot going on. Anyway, that's maybe something I'll cover in a future video. That Skinwalker movie. But of course, a lot more has been happening. A hell of a lot more over the last year. Now, this is extremely interesting. Could Julius Caesar be an alien? Or was he an alien? Because he lived a long time ago. He was actually born in what is now Italy in 100 BC to an elite family of the Roman Republic, and he joined the army. He rose through the ranks of the army to become a leading general. And he was also a prolific writer and historian. And a lot of what we know about Iron Age Britain actually comes from him. Julius Caesar waged numerous wars of conquest against neighbouring territory to expand Roman rule as far as he could. His greatest achievement, if you call it that, was his victory in the Gallic Wars, where he conquered the land which is today France. And in true Illuminati fashion, he forced the defeated French leader Vercingetorix to endure a humiliating ritual. He had to throw his weapons down at Caesar's feet. Yeah, this is even today in France. This is not forgotten. In France today, Vercingetorix is he's their oldest national hero, and he's much more widely respected and well known in France than Boudica, for example, is in Britain. On the subject of Britain, he invaded Britain. Now, he didn't conquer Britain, so there's not going to be a Boudica moment from me at the moment, because the actual conquest of Britain happened a century later under the Emperor Claudius. If you ever saw I, Claudius. And after these military campaigns, he returned to Rome across the river Rubicon and took power as the first Roman emperor. And he was assassinated by a conspiracy at the Ides of March. That's the March the 15th, 44 BC. And as one of the most famous and powerful people in the world, there were plenty of artistic images made of him during his lifetime and afterwards. Now, Romans were particularly good at stone sculpture, and there's many statues and busts of Julius Caesar. There's numerous descriptions of his face and voice from those who knew him. But in the days before photography, for those who came after him, the question of what he truly looked like can never be answered in full. However, an anthropologist and an archaeologist called Maya de Holosy thinks she has answered the question, and she's done it by scanning a marble bust of Julius Caesar and adding in comparisons from other artistic impressions of the man, and she's produced this 3D assembled image of the closest estimate possible to what he looked like. Now, this is not as accurate as the method used to recreate faces from skulls, as was recently done with Richard III's skeleton when that was found. Caesar's body was unfortunately cremated, so we have no skull to work with, but the rendering by de Holosy is extraordinarily detailed. It shows a man with a prominent nose, which Caesar was said to have had, and other than that, it's a fairly ordinary face. Now, what's remarkable about him, and this is the point I want to make, is the shape of his head. The upper cranium appears much larger and wider than usual. Now, we know Caesar suffered from epilepsy, and at one point he caught an illness that sounds like
encephalitis caused by a tapeworm infestation. However, he did not have hydrocephalus or any known conditions that cause brain damage or deform a human skull. Now, a colleague of de Hollese's called Tom Beutendorp believes this strangely shaped head was caused by his difficult birth. And contrary to popular belief, Julius Caesar was not born by caesarean section. That's actually one of his ancestors. It is true that difficult or prolonged births can cause newborns' heads to warp into highly unusual shapes, and I've seen that when I was a hospital porter, but they return to normal soon after birth. In order to permanently alter the shape of a person's skull, the head has to be artificially constricted in the first couple of months of life, before the skull bones are fully sealed. And this used to be done in some cultures, such as ancient South America. An alternative possibility is that Julius Caesar, though, this is a point because this brings us into the Paracas skulls and things like that. I don't know if you ever watch Ancient Aliens and Brian Forster, and you've ever looked at Maria Wheatley and what she has to say about this. But could it be that Julius Caesar was not, in fact, a human being? Not at least a normal human being? Sounds astonishing, but it's more plausible than it looks at first glance, because many ancient cultures produce images of royal personages as having highly bizarre features, weird-shaped heads, such as the ancient Egyptian pharaohs. And ancient mythology from all over the world speaks of the ruling classes of human society being carefully cultivated and maintained bloodlines with ancestry that include sky gods, or those who came down to the earth from the heavens. And the best known of these legends is found in the Bible, Genesis 6:4, where we see the line, "There were giants on the earth in those days, when the sons of God saw that the daughters of men were fair, and took of them many wives, who gave them many heirs. These then grew into the men of might and renown." That's just one of the legends about this. There's many, many others from all over the world. Could Julius Caesar have been an alien hybrid? A creature that is partly human, but some of its genetics come from an extraterrestrial source? I think that's perfectly possible. Now this is a laugh. Wiltshire police have released an official statement about crop circles. Now, it's very, very rare for state authorities to even mention crop circles, apart from the disinformation campaign they carried out in the late 80s. But the Wiltshire Constabulary have said this. With the summer well and truly underway, we have seen an increase of crop circles appearing across the county. They might seem harmless, but they actually have a huge negative impact on the hard-working landowners and farmers whose crops are damaged. Creating a crop circle is criminal damage and an offence. The damage caused means a loss of revenue to the farmer and the landowner. They also have to deal with civil trespass issues on their land after a crop circle has been created, where members of the public come without permission to view the circle. It has also been known for individuals to pose as part of a charity or as the landowner at the site of crop circles and attempt to take donations from people viewing the crop circle. We urge all farmers and landowners, if they have had a crop circle on their land, to report it to us on 101 so it can be recorded. Often after a crop circle appears, individuals will arrive with a drone and photograph it. Take a note of any vehicles, their registration plates and any individuals, and pass this information to the police. If a circle is created on your land, make sure you tell the crop circle community if you decide to allow or not allow access to the general public. And if you intend to cut the circle out, this should reduce unwanted visitors. And it gives you a list of various places you can actually report this. We also ask the public to help support our rural communities by reporting any suspicious vehicles, behaviour or people in crop fields to the police on 101. They may be attempting to create a crop circle and committing criminal damage. If you see a crop circle creation in progress, call the police on 999. #report it. Now, I'm sure Matthew Williams is laughing here. Now, Matthew Williams is a well-known ufologist, but he was once arrested for trespass and criminal damage, and he's the only person so far to have been successfully prosecuted for crop circle making. And this is a fact he wears very proudly on his sleeve. The police statement mentions drones, and that probably refers directly to Matt, who has a drone, which he uses to film crop circles. Although there's no proof that this necessarily means that the circles are the work of Matt's own team. And some of Matt's work is actually spectacular. I love the videos he produces of his drone films. And, of course, the title sequence to Sandra DeRoy's Awakening of 12 Strands which I've covered several times. That's quite something. It really is. But the obvious omission from this police report is the paranormal and UFO element to the crop circle phenomenon. They make the assumption that crop circles are all made by people using conventional circle making methods, wooden planks, tape measures, etc. But this is not the case, and I've explained several times. There's an awful lot. You look online, see the resources which explain there's much more to the crop circles than that. The police say if we see a crop circle creation in progress, we should call 999. The problem is, in some cases, the police will they'll need more than a squad car to catch the culprits. A space rocket might be more effective. Now we have an interesting story here that includes, it's partly UFO related, but it's also about censorship. The Nazi UFO model has been banned. Now this is a model which was produced by Revell, and there's several other companies that make this. And it's one of these kits you get. Now this is something I used to do when I was a kid. You get like a model kit, and you put them together and you glue all the pieces together to make the model yourselves. This allows the owner to build the model themselves. You remember Airfix? That's the company that I remember very well when I was a kid. It's a very popular activity. There's several manufacturers provide this service, but Revell has just recalled one of their products, not because it has sharp edges or the poison glue or anything like that, but for political reasons. Now the product is a model of, or it was, they've actually put it back, I'll explain in a minute, but the product is a model of a Haunebu. This is a flying saucer. This is an aircraft thought to have been built in Nazi Germany that is powered by free energy and propelled by an electrogravitic system. It was part of an experimental line constructed by BMW and Skoda, and also at the Wenceslas mine in Poland. So no jokes about Skodas. You know, the cheap hatchbacks, no, they produced this as well. The project ran from the mid-1930s until the end of World War II in 1945. There have been some questions over whether the machine ever existed, but some very credible researchers such as Nick Cook, Igor Witkowski and Joseph Farrell state that it did, and their reasons make sense in my view. There are many photographs of the craft that look genuine. Now, after the defeat of the Nazis in 1945, the victorious Allies appropriated the enemy's technology as part of Operation Paperclip. This was a secret part of the same program that led to space rocket development in the public domain. And I recommend Nick Cook's films, The $1 Billion Secret and UFOs: The Secret Evidence. Excellent movies they are. And the fact that there is a market in the hobby modelling industry for such products is a good sign that the awareness of their existence is spreading and growing. Now, what's even better, there's another company called Testers that has brought out a kit based on the Bob Lazar sport model. Now, the decision to ban the sale of their Haunebu model actually doesn't seem to be because of any attempt to cover up the free energy and anti-gravity issue. It is a result of Germany's obsessive hypersensitivity about the Nazis, and Revell is a German-American company. This hypersensitivity about the Nazis, like I said, it's a cultural pitfall they've endured since the end of the Hitler regime, and it doesn't seem to have eased over time. It's very interesting to compare Germany to Russia, because Russians feel no shame at all when it comes to the Soviet era, even though the USSR lasted for 70 years, as opposed to Hitler's mere 12 years in power. The Soviets were also far more destructive. They killed a far greater number of people than the Nazis did. Some Russians even feel pride. They feel pride over their history of being part of this global superpower. However oppressive for most of the 20th century, even if they would not wish to see a return of that period. Now, a spokesman for Revell, which is based in the state of North Rhine-Westphalia, said that the company was issuing a full apology and regarded the criticism they'd experienced as totally justified. They were attacked by the military museum in Dresden, which is very ironic considering that city was destroyed by the Allied bombing. And this military museum points out that the Haunebu craft never existed. Now, there are 2 points related to that statement. Firstly, it's not certain the vehicle never existed. And secondly, even if it didn't, does that mean other models of imaginary spacecraft have to go too? Starship Enterprise, Millennium Falcon, ban them! And then the German Children's Protection Association got involved because they're concerned that the kit is marketed at the skill level of children aged as young as 12. The Haunebu flying saucer is of course associated with the Nazis and includes some insignia of the Third Reich on its hull, and that's illegal under German censorship laws. The Child Protection Organisation also doesn't want the idea promoted that the Nazis managed to reach space because this apparently glorifies the Nazis, regardless of its factual status, and they believe wrongly that it's not factual. I don't think that's relevant to the Nazis in terms of their moral status. It's just either is or is not. This Nazi guilt that lies at the collective centre of modern German psychology and culture is a very destructive thing. And there are other examples of this kind of pathological behaviour. It's about time the Germans let it go. It was a long time ago. Only the very elderly still remember it, and none of them deserve to be held accountable for it. It's time for closure. Germany needs to put the past behind them. I suspect that it's not merely accidental good memory. There's a sign that there's a reason why Germans keep getting reminded about this, about the Nazis. It's about breaking the nation's spirit. It was brought up apparently when the Germans objected to the EU, being in the EU. They said, but what about the Nazis? And they said, all right, we'll vote for Merkel then. I mean, why else, apart from national self-loathing, would anyone re-elect this globalist freak, Angela Merkel, 3 times in office? I hope the Germans find a way to escape this nasty piece of mental abuse. I really do. And there is hopefully signs that this is happening because Revell did lift the ban. They lifted the ban on the 15th of October. You can now buy the kit for £44. So, I mean, and I hope that will actually make people think more about whether this thing might actually be true. It's got nothing to do with the Nazis, because, of course, this was developed after the war by the Allies. And the scientists who went to the Allied countries. Some of them went to Britain, some of them went to the Soviet Union, but United States got most of them. People like Werner von Braun was one of them, but there were others who operated in secret, like SS Führer Hans Kammler, for example. I suspect that's where he ended up. So hopefully that'll get people thinking about it. I really do hope so. I was on the Paranormal Peep Show talking about this, actually, with Neil Geddes Ward and Andrew Chaplin. If you want to check that out, I did an interview about it. Now, I cannot give any kind of summary of the UFO situation since the last show without mentioning that Stanton Friedman is retiring. In fact, he has retired at the time of this program going to air. Now, Stanton Friedman, the original researcher into the UFO incident at Roswell, New Mexico, the godfather of conspiratorial ufology, has announced his retirement. This is the end of an era. He's no longer going to be doing his usual activities. He's appearing at conferences, doing radio interviews, talking to the mainstream media, etc., etc. That has been his full-time job for 48 years, and he wants to leave it now. And he's received some criticism for this move of his, but that's mostly because his contribution is so widely enjoyed and respected by so many people, including myself, for such a long time. And I particularly like his debates because he really doesn't suffer fools gladly. He's totally fearless during his appearances, and he eloquently and coolly eviscerates them. Skeptics like Philip J. Klass and Michael Shermer, all these noisy negativists, as he calls them. There's loads of them. You get them on YouTube. They're everywhere. And Friedman has he's explained why he's doing it. He's defended his decision. And the obvious point is he's 84 years old and his health is not what it used to be. In fact, he had a heart attack a couple of years ago. I reported on that, if you remember. And in many countries now, people are complaining because the government won't let them retire until they're 68. He was 84. And he's also achieved so much. Can we demand more from him? And another thing, it's his wife, really, I think, wants him to stop because she wants him to spend more time at home with her, which is fair enough, I think. And all I can say is, happy retirement, Stanton T. Friedman. Enjoy yourself. Perhaps in the near future there will be some developments on the UFO scene that will compel you to come out of retirement when the world is once again in need of the silver tongue and the razor-sharp intellect of Stanton T. Friedman. If you want to hear more from Stanton Friedman, you can go to the Panmo Radio Show, Program 46, where I actually interview the great man himself. I'm very proud of that particular show. Now, this is very interesting because this happened during the World Cup. This happened, well, what happened was, it was actually in July. England did well, didn't they? They achieved a victory in the 2018 World Cup, beating Sweden 2-0, advancing to the semi-finals of the tournament. If you remember my Truth Seekers Northeast video, and this took place in Samara, which is a fine city in the steppes of southern Russia. It's a city which is boiling hot in summer, freezing cold in winter. But it's known as a space city because it played an important role in the pioneers of space exploration, and it used to be a closed city in the Soviet era. But its connection with outer space took on a very ironic twist, because 18 miles away from Samara, just 5 days before the big match, just after midnight on the 5th of July, there was an aerial explosion that lit up the night sky above the villages of Bostandik and Karasu in western Kazakhstan. And there's some amateur witness footage. It shows a brightly lit object descending in a straight line and hit the ground in a second burst of light. And the impact caused a huge grass fire that took 4 hours to bring under control. The nearby residents flocked to the scene and saw an object that they describe as spherical, about 10 feet in diameter. And some say there was a second smaller artifact that landed close by. And the main object was like buried in the ground, partly buried in the ground. And there were some photographs that are purported to be of it. And they show a metallic surface, although one witness claims it felt like non-metallic, like fabric. It was black in colour, which is probably due to scorching from entering the Earth's atmosphere at high speed. And there is what looks like a hatch, similar to those on the Soyuz capsules, that provide transport to and from the International Space Station. There's a circular hatch, no hinges. It's secured around the circumference by nuts and bolts. This hatch is only 10 inches across, which is unusual, too small to admit an astronaut. In the middle of the hatch is what looks like a pipe protruding, split off towards both ends, and a screw and nut connector. I would say, based on this evidence, that this is definitely a man-made spacecraft from Earth. It's probably some kind of satellite, and the fabric-like texture the witness describes could be the ablative heat shield that was partly burned off. Now, the incident happened very close to the Baikonur Space Center, which is the world's biggest space launch and recovery facility, but no space agency has reported losing any rockets. The authorities in Kazakhstan and Russia have not commented. That leads me to wonder if this crash involves some kind of classified mission, perhaps a spy satellite. Yeah. Oh god, this is annoying. It's not Professor Brian Cox this time, but this is something similar. It does. It really reminds me of, it's almost as annoying as talking about that, or Professor Karen Douglas. Although this is far more annoying than that. Some very, very clever people at Oxford University, yes indeed, have announced that humans are alone in the universe. Yes, Earth is the only planet with any intelligent life for as far as we can possibly see. This perfectly and extremely sensible claim was made by 3 scientists, Anders Sandberg, Eric Drexler, and Toby Ord, at the Future Humanity Institute. That's interesting, isn't it? Sandberg, Drexler and Ord. Sounds like a firm of solicitors. And their name sounds a bit German, doesn't it? I wonder what Michael Shrimpton would say about that. Now, their conclusion comes from the Fermi paradox. Now, Fermi's paradox is a proposal made by the famous physicist Enrico Fermi in a lecture at Los Alamos National Laboratory, where he asked once why we've never been visited by extraterrestrials, seeing as the universe is infinite in size and does definitely have the ability to develop intelligent life, the Earth being the case in point. Now, it's best to go to my SETI and UFOs video to get more details about that. You'll find, I won't put a link in the description box, you can find it. But the Drake equation is one that I refer to here. It was put together by some of the world's leading astronomers, biologists, cosmologists, statisticians, etc., etc. Now, the SETI proponent Jill Tarter called it a wonderful way to organise our ignorance. But is that fair? Because we know that most stars have planets, and a larger portion of these planets are in the Goldilocks zone. That's a region of space where they could have an Earth-like environment. So this trio of gerrymental men from Oxford, when they say, oh yes, we're alone. Now, but the thing is, biologists are still not sure how the process of life is to begin when this correct habitat occurs. It could be that every Earth-like planet inexorably generates life in one form or another as part of a natural feature of its evolution. Or could it be a fluke? Because we only have one example to work with, Earth. It's impossible to declare the odds. Now, based on this new study by Sandberg, Drexler and Ord, the odds are between 39 and 85% that the Earth is either the only planet in the universe with life, or that life exists out there but is so far away we'll never be able to contact it. Between 39 and 85%. That's very wide-ranging odds, isn't it? You couldn't exactly go to bookies for that, could you? In fact, well, on the subject of bookmakers, right, William Hill are offering 85 to 1 on us having it been actually within the next 2 years there will be an announcement of intelligent life out in the universe. I'm going to put a tenner on that, I think. And these three scientists also failed to take into account the issues I raise in my SETI and UFO talk. The answer to Fermi's paradox is very simple. Extraterrestrials are visiting us, and that's what UFOs are. You know, it astonishes me when you listen to these people like Carl Sagan going on and on about the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, but he completely dismisses the UFO phenomenon. He did it for his entire career. We humans only built the first aeroplane in 1903, but in the 1950s, the British Interplanetary Society had finished a practical design for a spacecraft that could reach the nearest star within a few years. It could be built today, it could be built using publicly available technology, it could work. It is bizarre and illogical to conclude that the universe is teeming with life, much of it far more technologically advanced than humanity, while humanity has designed basic interstellar space travel within just half a century, and we could therefore go and visit the aliens, yet on no account can the aliens ever come to visit us. All evidence that suggests that they have been to see us is instantaneously dismissed without any consideration as the falsehoods of shysters and fools. There is a mental blindfold when it comes to UFOs in academia. Now, Bryce Zabel suggests that Carl Sagan's denial is not mere ignorance. He's an insider, Sagan was, who knew UFOs were real and was an active agent of the truth embargo. Either way, this cultural hurdle has to be overcome. And in my SETI talk, I refer to the work of Dr. Chandra Karama Singh and Professor Fred Hoyle, who found that space is not a cold, inanimate vacuum. It's filled with organic material. It's like a rainforest up there. These three Oxford German guys are talking nonsense. And thanks to the Russian oligarch Yuri Milner, there's more money and publicity being dedicated to SETI research than ever before. The success is inevitable. And I can't wait for it. I really can't, because it will have a knock-on effect in ufology. I'll explain why in that particular video. It's called SETI, the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence and UFOs. Check it out. One thing I must do is pay tribute to the bravery of Yaphet Kotto. Now, I don't know about you, but I consider Ridley Scott's film Alien the best science fiction horror movie ever made. And it spawned an entire franchise of sequels, but all of them failed to a lesser or greater degree to rival the splendour of the original. Now, like all good horror movies, its power comes more from a knowledge of human psychology than gruesome special effects, what truly scares people deep down. And with Alien, it's very often the projected fear from the characters. And the acting is so brilliant, the expression on people's faces when they see the creature. It has a lot more impact than when the viewer sees it themselves. Now, Yaphet Kotto's performance was one of the best in the film. And you may have seen Yaphet Kotto in several films. He's well known for playing, I think, the best ever James Bond bad guy in Live and Let Die. And he's now 77. And he announced publicly that he has had real alien contact. And judging by his ripe old age, he's clearly encountered real aliens that are far less homicidal than their fictional counterpart. Now, Yaphet Kotto is actually from an African Jewish family by background, and Africa is a continent with a deep and long tradition for extraterrestrial visitation that is often overlooked by conventional ufology. His experiences began when he was aged 9 or 10 at his home in the Bronx, New York, USA. He saw a creature one day when he was playing with his friends in the street. He also regularly saw UFOs above his house, and these events followed him as he travelled because he moved to live in the Philippines for a while, and that happened. And even ironically, when he was in the production of Alien in 1978, he had sightings of real aliens. And he once had a close encounter with a mothership that he described as being the size of Yankee Stadium. Pretty big. That's a big baseball ground in New York. Some of these events involve missing time. And until now, only his wife, his psychoanalyst, and his rabbi knew about this factor of his life. And his wife was with him and shared one of his sightings. Now, the skeptics, of course, question his mental health, but he's perfectly sane, very intelligent. He claims he has an IQ of 196. He denies that he's seeking fame and fortune. He's already a famous actor who has earned a very healthy living from his talents. He's not writing a book or making a movie that he needs to promote. If anything, what he said could harm his livelihood rather than enhance it. Unlike many other contactees, he feels a sense of compassion for planet Earth. He wants to help the aliens save it. Because like most people who come out of the closet, so to speak, of being an alien contactee, he has a lot to lose by describing his experiences publicly. Now, everyone who has these experiences faces the threat of ridicule and rejection by their family, acquaintances and friends. But for celebrities, that risk is greater because they are recognised by so many other people as well. Just think of the people who are pointing at him in the streets going, "Oi, nutter." So well done, Yaphet Kotto. Well done for speaking out, and good luck. I hope you don't have too much aggravation as a result of your courageous actions. Right, now this is very weird indeed. A man received a voicemail on his mobile phone that has caused him enormous distress, and he wrote on Twitter, "I really need you all to listen to this voicemail I just got. I'm deactivating my cell phone service. I don't know why I was just sent military code. The fuck do I look like Liam Neeson?" The voicemail features a robotic feminine voice, probably electronic, reading out a list of letters and numbers in the English phonetic alphabet. Now, this is a method of communication when using voice radio that I myself had to learn at the hospital because the porters were issued with walkie-talkies. And because voice radio is lower quality than face-to-face conversation, words are used to signify letters, so spelling mistakes are more avoidable. And each letter of the alphabet is represented by a word that begins with that letter. So you have Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, X-ray, Yankee, Zulu, etc. And the message transliterates as so there's a long string of words here, which if you read them, you skim them, you can probably see this string of characters. You might detect that a number of words are there, even though there are no word spaces. Now, what the string is a message in English with some numbers, and it reads thus, quote, "Danger SOS. It is dire for you to evacuate. Be cautious. They are not human. 042933964230 SOS Danger SOS." The message was sent from a hidden number. SOS stands for Save Our Souls. In the phonetic alphabet, this is a cry for help. And there's an S at the start as well, which indicates this is a recording on a continuous loop. The numbers are less comprehensive than the words, and they're open to interpretation. And some commentators think they might be GPS coordinates, but if so, then they designate a location on a remote forested riverbank in Gabon, which is a West African nation on the Gulf of Guinea. Now, this is quite close to the island of Fernando Poo, or today it's called Bioko, which is the centre of the fictional New World Order conspiracy in Robert Shea and Robert Anton Wilson's novel The Illuminatus trilogy, this epic book that I love so much. I think that's probably not relevant, but some people have linked the numbers to the missing MH370 airliner, but again, these numbers could mean anything. It's speculation. Now, the man who received this voicemail is called Ty, T-Y, on Twitter. His handle is @StrayedAway, STRAYEDAWAY. And he was absolutely terrified by what has happened to him, and he states that he's even thrown his mobile phone away. He believes he was sent some military code by mistake, and he fears attention from the government security services. He claims that somebody photographed his house in the early hours of the morning just before he received the voicemail as well. And he's since been sent other messages, presumably on other media, in foreign languages, although these could be hoaxes by random people who've heard about his predicament. And he really doesn't enjoy being made the centre of attention for the UFO paranormal conspiracy theory movement, and he's even asked people to stop sending him DMs about the matter. Now, what makes this story credible for me is Ty himself. I went and I followed him on Twitter. I had a look through some more of his tweets, and his account is primarily one of left-wing comedy. Yes, such a thing does exist. And he describes himself as, "I've got no 2 cents, no sense at all, LGBTQ humour." He sounds like what these days is known as an Antifa or a social justice warrior, a staunch liberal, as they say in America. There's lots of anti-Trump epithets in his feed, which is weird because belief in UFO paracon subjects is virtually non-existent among people with those political leanings. They tend to be atheomaterialists. And he's really not the kind of person to make up the story that he's just told. I mean, if you heard it from me, it would be less credible, I think. Even though I wouldn't lie about something like that. But if I did, but for someone like him, it's really weird because he's not the type of person to make it up, like I said. I really don't doubt that this voicemail he received is real. His fear is not feigned, it's real fear. So what is the voicemail? Ty may well have been sent a clandestine government intelligent message by mistake, and perhaps it was intended for an undercover spy or a hidden room in some foreign embassy. And before advanced communications, these messages were conveyed on analog radio channels that were known as number stations, and they could be picked up on a home radio set, and they were very similar in content to Ty's voicemail, and they were often quite creepy, and a few were still broadcasting. Because I remember finding a number station myself when I was a child. I used to have fun just going through the radio dial, and this one just simply repeated the letters R, Y, and O over and over again in Morse code. So what does Ty's voicemail mean? So, like I said, forget the numbers; they could be anything. The content of its words are really alarming. It's an alert of danger and a call for assistance involving a hazard from something that is not human, but it might be mistaken for human by the recipient, hence the appeal for caution. So this presumably refers to an intelligent entity. Does that mean something extraterrestrial? It's difficult to know. Now, there was an update on this, because I got some more information afterwards. There's a YouTuber called Strangeries, and he uploaded a video that he rashly calls "Conclusion to the Creepy Twitter Voicemail Message." And he begins correct. He's correct to begin with, because he dismisses the connections to @Straightaway's voicemail and MH Flight 70 and all these. So forget the numbers, like I said. That's excessive speculation. So I don't pay any credence to that as well. Now, but the interesting part comes where Stranger cites an obscure infotech podcast called Gimlet Media Reply All. And this podcast addresses the peculiar phenomenon of phantom calls. Now, phantom calls are a relatively new problem that affects thousands of telephone users, especially if you're on a mobile phone. What happens is that the handset rings, and when you answer, you hear only outlandish noises or a stranger talking to you in an unintelligible way. The podcast plays some examples of these. Now, one appears to be an audio recording of a basketball match. Another is a series of sirens for emergency vehicles. The caller never responds to anything you say to them. That's because these calls are all recordings, and they're from an automated system. The calls are designed to disguise themselves so they look just like normal traffic on the network. They are either anonymous or they are listed under a random number. So if you're given the number and you call the phantom back, you'll simply be put through to that random number, and the recipient will be unaware of how their number has been misused. Now, phantom calls are actually a money-making scam. What happens is they're sent by fake telecom companies that have joined a toll-free number service. Now, a toll-free number is not free, it's just that the end user is not charged, and the line carrier picks up the bill by reimbursing the company, usually in exchange for advertising or something. This is why people who are targeted by the phantom call scam do not notice any excessive payments in their phone bill. And this is very different to the older divert calls scam, where user services were stealthily transferred to a premium rate line, which they were then charged for without their knowledge. Now, I remember that one. That was awful. The automated system for phantom calls is designed to phone up a large number of people and make as much cash off the toll-free service as they can. Now, to maximise charges to the carrier, the phantom call has to keep the targeted user on the line for as long as possible. And this is why it includes material intended to arouse the target's curiosity. Strange sound and speech, for instance. The hope is that the target will spend several minutes listening and saying, "Hello? Hello? Who is this?" a few times to tot up a healthy payment for the bogus company. This is far more effective than the so-called dead call. This is an annoying but unfortunately legal method in which some marketers and advertisers simply use it to profile customers. This is where you just pick up the phone and hear nothing but silence, so you can actually put the phone down immediately. Phantom calls are completely criminal, of course, but the police are cracking down on them. I'm sure they'll be replaced eventually by another fraud. Now, according to Strangeries, Ty was probably just hit by a phantom caller. The strange message was simply intended to make him listen for as long as possible. This explanation might feasibly be correct, but there are several flaws in it. Firstly, the call was not picked up by Ty, it went straight to voicemail. The user was not actually on the line listening to the call. Does that still count as a toll-free call? Would an automated system not be able to cut the connection when there was no answer? I'm not sure, but I'm doubtful. It seems to run contrary to common sense. The message also seems excessively elaborate for a phantom call. All it would need to do was to keep Ty on the line. It could easily have grabbed his attention without the need to encode a real communication in the English phonetic alphabet, especially such a bizarre one. Live audio transliteration of the EPA is not easy for anything other than short strings. I've been trained to use the EPA because I was a hospital porter. I often communicated with other porters via walkie-talkie, as I explained. But for long text, I'd need a pen and paper to decipher the longer strings of EPA, letters and numbers. Including a meaningful EPA sentence in a phantom call would be completely superfluous. Why would the con men behind it bother? I still think that the most likely explanation for this mystery is that the Twitter voicemail was some kind of encoded communication from the world of espionage, which was sent to Ty by mistake, and the content makes me think, it's very, very odd. It's very significant, I think, this. And now we come to QAnon. This is the most recent update I have on the UFO issue. Now, this is contentious, I know. I've done a live stream on QAnon, which you could go and see, where I covered QAnon in detail. But QAnon, basically, if you're not familiar with it, there's these posts on 4chan and 8chan allegedly coming from an insider in the Trump administration who predicts the ultimate defeat of the New World Order. Check the live stream for more details. Now, whoever Q is, whoever he or she or they are, has spoken in detail about the inner politics of the US government and its relationship to other states. Yet a few days ago they answered two questions on a more unusual subject: the conspiracy theories of outer space. And that is, of course, the staple for her Panmo TV. Yet this is the first time I'm aware that Q has referred to it. And indeed, the Q-tuber Dustin Nemos says in his commentary, he says, this is not an issue that interests him because he's so focused on evil on the ground. However, I've said many times, lies in the sky and evil on the ground are intimately connected. And the Q drops can be seen on Dustin. If you go to Dustin Nemos's channel, you can see it. It's in this picture too. You can see it in the picture you're looking at now. It begins with a question from an 8chan poster. Q, are we alone? ? Roswell ? Now, Roswell, of course, refers to the Roswell incident, in which an extraterrestrial spacecraft crashed, an artifact of some kind anyway, crashed on the Earth's surface at Roswell, New Mexico, USA in July of 1947, and was secretly salvaged by the government. And they covered it up. The cover-up endures to this day. If Roswell were a real flying saucer, which I think it is, then it represents decisive proof that Earth is not the only living planet in the universe, and also that other life has travelled to the Earth already. The reply is typical of QAnon. It's very brief and very suggestive. No. Highest classification. Consider the vastness of space. Q. And I think this means Q is confirming the Roswell incident. Highest classification is the level that secrets about UFOs are kept, higher than the H-bomb, to quote Wilbert Smith. Does this mean Q has access to that secrecy level, or have they just consulted with those who do? consider the vastness of space is the same argument made by proponents of both ufology and SETI, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. Now, funnily enough, then the subject of the moon landings comes up. Someone asked Q, did NASA fake the moon landings? Have we been to the moon since then? Are there secret space programs? Is this why the Space Force was created? Now, that's a whole list of questions, and Q answers briefly. False. Moon landings are real. Programs exist that are outside the public domain. The first sentence seems unequivocal. As far as Q is concerned, the Apollo moon landings happened as they were portrayed by the mainstream. But that doesn't tally with what I learned. I mean, check out my moon landing replies to Steve Mumbling. Dustin also wonders if this is a bit of intentional disinformation by Q. Now, as for the secret space program, Q confirms it. That would then beg the question why the United States would risk letting NASA do the job with its crude rockets and considerable chance of failure and disaster right in the middle of the Cold War. Wouldn't it be better to let the secret space program take over the tricky bits? These contradictory statements from QAnon might add confidence to the tendency who believe the entire Q phenomenon is just a hoax. It's a LARP by the Channers, and it wouldn't be the first time, because we know that the Chans are notorious for their shit posting and trolling. Excuse my French. And a good way to go to get the other side of the story is a good friend of mine. He's a fellow radio show host, Kev Baker. Kev is absolutely convinced that QAnon is a scam, and he's done several programs about it. But there is another side to this confusing story. There's a debate on Dustin Nemos's channel, which makes me doubt what Kev is saying. He might be right, but I don't think he is. I mean, well, this is the thing. I mean, I've also had private conversations with several people on this matter, and they actually appear to negate some of the concerns that people like Kev make, and Unirock, this other guy. The way I see it, like, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. The day is not far off when we will know one way or another, because the recurring point Q makes is that the destruction of the deep state is imminent. Therefore, this outcome, whichever outcome occurs, we'll know. It'll either completely vindicate or completely discredit QAnon in the near future. I'll probably do another live stream when there's an update on that. So now, here beginneth my reportage on the 6th International UFO Truth Magazine Conference. This was held at Holmfirth in West Yorkshire, UK, on the 14th and 15th of September 2018. And, well, this is, I would like this to have been a kind of better reportage. Basically, it's because of my workload and things like that, I couldn't make it that way. But I've got a feeling this could turn out, in fact it was, one of the most remarkable UFO conferences that has ever taken place. Enjoy. Little Porter's Pride and Dignity, Stop the New World Order, welcome to Panmo TV. I'm actually here in Gloucester Green in Oxford, and that view there is the coach station, Gloucester Green coach station. And I'm just having there's usually a big market set up here, they haven't set it up yet. Lots of pigeons, of course, eating stuff. Now that there is a cinema, and that through there is George Street, so just to give you a quick view of where I am. But I'm not staying here for long, because I'm going to the UFO Truth Magazine Conference. I'm just on my way now. I'll just tell you a little bit more about it. Oh yes, we've been preparing for it for a long time. Gary gets his preparation in early, and now it's really, really good that he's got it. And now the time has come. It's this annual event, which I really look forward to. I think I've come prepared. Some UFOs are real. I've got that t-shirt on and this hat, Truth Seekers Northeast. Regular viewers will know that that's what I wore when I went to see Professor Karen Douglas live. So I'm showing the flag, but this is more kind of like just to fit in with everyone else, because we're all going to be wearing things like this. It's a really, really great social event. Like I said, these conferences are more social get-togethers than anything else, and the speakers are almost an excuse for that. Oh, but I'm looking forward to seeing all those speakers anyway. They look really, really good. Now it's one thing that does upset me is that I can't go to Probe, because the Probe conference is the same weekend, and I actually made this point during my last Probe reportage, that they've decided to book it the very same weekend as UFO Truth, and maybe they had a reason for that, but it must have been a very, very important reason, because it's it's the most ridiculous thing to do otherwise. In a sense, there's so much crossover between the two attendees, and I'd love to go to both, and I can't. And I can't because I've already booked to go to UFO Truth, and I'd go to that anyway because I'm a columnist, and because it's like once a year instead of every 6 months. All kinds of reasons I prefer to go to UFO Truth. I'm going to the Lapis conference instead to make up for that, which is kind of like Probe. This is next month. But it's really sad that so many people have had this choice to make. It really is. And I hope next year Probe won't be the same weekend as UFO Truth. I really do. It's been quite. It's exciting. It's an exciting time actually, because we better just check the time. Hold on a moment. I'm just going to check the time. Hope I've gone through another time warp. No, I haven't. I did my radio show last night. You see, it's almost kind of an appropriate thing. I did my radio show last night, a Panwo radio, a Panwo show, and it was very good. Went down very well. And then some news came up in the chat box. And it was actually concerning something that happened a few days ago, and I hadn't heard about it. But then I saw that Secure Team 10 had uploaded a video about it 3 days ago, and I didn't see it. That's because I'm writing my book, I guess. It tends to take me out of the loop a little bit. But there's an incident in the United States of America which some people are talking as possibly a pre-disclosure event. I think that's very prodigal to make that assumption. But there's something. Obviously, there is something extraordinary going on. What happened is a solar observatory has been closed and occupied by the FBI. Now, I think it's a road sweeper coming. I think it can come around here because these are noisy things. This is the Sunspot Solar Observatory in New Mexico. So it is a Sunspot Solar Observatory in New Mexico, which is an appropriate name for a solar observatory. It made an announcement a couple of days ago that it was closed, and all the staff have been evacuated. Now, not just the observatory, but there's a lot of the infrastructure around it, including a post office, have been shut down. And the postmaster there has given an interview explaining why weird things have been going on there, and the FBI have moved in. Apparently they almost raided the place. They came in with a helicopter and they raided the place. And there's a lot of talk about why that might be. All kinds of theories, everything from Chinese spies to wormholes. I mean, you name it, someone has thought of it. The truth of the matter is nobody knows. The FBI is saying nothing. The staff there don't really seem to know anything. But one of the things that have been suggested is because it's a solar observatory that they spotted something in the sun which the government doesn't want to know people about. Maybe some massive coronal mass ejection, or a sunspot, or a radiation emission that's going to fry the Earth, and the government doesn't want panic or anything like that. I don't know why governments keep thinking people are going to panic all the time. It's a very patriarchal attitude, and a big daddy government can deal with this. You poor kids will just panic. Well, people don't panic generally. I mean, in World War II, the British public showed enormous stoicism and bravery. We didn't panic. But anyway, back to the subject. Yeah, this is the theory. There's something horrible has just happened with the sun that's going to destroy life on Earth, and the government is trying to keep it quiet. Well, the thing about it is, if that was true, then they wouldn't be able to keep it quiet, because you'd have to occupy every solar observatory in the world, and there are thousands of them, including all the amateur astronomers as well. And I made this point in my SETI talk. You cannot have cover-ups in astronomy. It's the one truly democratic science, because all the data is above our heads, and anyone who has the equipment to do so and has the desire to do so can observe it. So it's not that. It could. A funny thing is, like what the guy said on Secure Team 10 was that loads of other observatories have gone down around the world as well. Well, they hadn't gone down, they hadn't been closed and occupied, but their webcams had gone down at the same time. There's one in Hawaii, there's a couple of others, not just solar observatories, some other observatories. So there's something weird going on. Now, of course, another possibility is that they have this one solar observatory, this one and no other, has seen something it's not supposed to. Seen something in terms of something grey with big eyes, or saucer shaped or cigar shaped, or etc, etc, etc. That is a possibility. Again, it would have to be something quite local to the area for one observatory not to pick it up and all the others not to, because you see, they're all connected with each other. It's all a big web of observatories. They're all sharing data. They have like networks, computer networks, where they're always putting stuff onto. You know, you can't keep something secret. If for instance, if they saw like a UFO hovering near the sun, simply occupying that observatory would do nothing, because all the others would have seen it too. All the data would have been immediately onto their network. You couldn't cover that up. It'd be impossible. So I mean, somebody said that there was some spies, I think Russians or something, that were using the observatory to observe Holloman Air Force Base, which is nearby, which is supposedly where a UFO landed in the 1950s. Again, I don't know. But it's interesting this has happened just on the eve of the UFO Truth Magazine conference. And who knows, there may be some updates while the conference is in progress, which would be really good, because it means, firstly, there'll be a lot of media attention on the conference, when it otherwise would be ignored by the mainstream media. Secondly, my books will all sell out. Oh, by the way, I've got a bag of my books. This bag contains my books. I've got 15 books in there. Oh, like loads of Horizons and Reveals. I've run out of Evans Lands. I didn't realise that, but I've run out of Evans Lands, which is a bit annoying. So no Evans Lands. What happened was I had a box from a wholesaler, which I thought contained about a dozen copies of Evans Land. It turned out it contains a dozen copies of the first edition of Rockall, which I can't really sell because I've already put loads of them. I've already put the second edition of Rockall online for free, so I'm not going to go selling a book of a substandard first edition of the same story. I'll probably just give them away to charity shops or something. But I've got no Evans Lands left, so if you wanted a copy, too late. Anyway, I've got to go and catch a coach now. I've got to get to Holmfirth, so I'm getting a coach to Huddersfield and a bus from Huddersfield to Holmfirth. But I'm actually staying in Huddersfield again because I couldn't get accommodation in Holmfirth. It tends to sell out quite quickly, Holmfirth. Well, I've got to head that way now and get to my coach. So, well, here goes. Right, it's almost 10 o'clock now. I left Oxford at 8, and I'm here in Milton on the Keynes, or Mickey Keynes, whatever you like to call it, Milton Keynes. I never did finish my Secrets of Milton Keynes series, but I should go back and do that again. It's just someone was going to help me. Someone said they discovered some new information. Excuse me. Some new information about this strange town. Strange new town that was built very quickly and very strangely. Synonyms of strange required. I must get a thesaurus. Anyway, this is just a symptom actually of this place where I'm at now is very much symptomatic of Milton Keynes. There's the coachway through there, and you have this big. I'm underneath a bridge, underneath like a big road bridge, and yeah, despite with all this scene of sort of urban concrete development, you get a little gate, like a farm gate, and a field beyond it. And just typical, just like a blend of the inner city and the rustic pastoral, which is pretty typical of Milton Keynes. Oh. Everything seems normal. I mean, it's Friday, you see, so Friday was always going to be Disclosure Day, wasn't it? If you ever read AD After Disclosure by Richard Dolan and Bryce Zabel, and Stephen Bassett has said something similar. Could this be Disclosure Day? Wouldn't that be something if it happened to be on the Friday before the UFO Truth Magazine conference? And as I said back in Oxford, it would mean it would make it the most amazing UFO conference in history, and it would mean my books would immediately go like hotcakes. That'd be fantastic. Is there something to do with that solar observatory which could be a prelude to a Disclosure event? I wonder. Anyway, it's too early. I mean, the thing is, it was always going to be what Bassett and Dolan said was the disclosure would occur on a Friday, but it would happen at about 5 p.m. Eastern Standard US time, which is roughly 10 p.m. British Summer Time. So we've got another 12 hours to wait if today is Disclosure Day. But I mean, that would be a turn up for the books, wouldn't it? Disclosure Day on the eve of the UFO Truth magazine conference. Oh, I've made it to Huddersfield. Yeah. Oh man, I made it. It's about 2:45 in the afternoon. I'm a little bit early, and I managed to get to Huddersfield. It's a fine town. I mean, you've seen it before in previous videos I've made in this series to do with UFO Truth. It's all this dark sort of stone. And this is the railway square, which is always very nice. I've now got to get to my hotel. I've got to carry this bag of books, which is pretty heavy actually. So, but I know where my hotel is. I'm not staying at the same place I did the first time I came to UFO Truth. The coach journey was a bit of a drag actually. I was going to turn this round because I don't know how well you can hear me. I'm going to start walking actually. That's going to weigh me down. I think I'm getting a taxi. I'll see how I get on. It's not that far. The coast journey was not very nice. Well, it was alright, and we didn't even have the long stop in Leeds, so we just went all the way straight through from Milton Keynes. But there was a gold, like I was saying about before how peaceful coaches are compared to trains, and that's true. They damn well are. They're much nicer than trains because you don't get the drunken louts on them that you do on trains. Alcohol's actually banned on coaches, whereas if you go on a train, they're almost begging you to part with your money in exchange for their overpriced cans of a lager. But there were a couple of drunken louts on this coach. And when he got off the coach, this is the thing, that when they got off the coach, I saw they had bags of cans and stuff like that. And there was one of these people, like me, you probably met people like this, that always, they got really loud voices, and they're all, they're going to get in everyone's face. If they're in a room, they're in everyone's face. They have to just get in people's faces. There's a neoclassical railway station there, with this strange water feature here. It's taken up. Now this here is a statue of Harold Wilson, former Prime Minister, born in Huddersfield, 1960. I was Prime Minister, born 1916, died 1995. Prime Minister from 1964 1970, 1974 1976. Yeah. But he was also a member of, I think, the Fabian Society, and he was like the Fabian Society's representative in Oxford University. Several people, there's rumours that he recruited spies for the Soviet Union and things like that. Anyway, I'm going off topic. What was I talking about? Oh, drunken louts, that's it. Yeah, I was talking about drunken louts. There was this man and woman on there, right, who were obviously pissed up. And they were like shouting and swearing at the top of their voice. They got voices like foghorns, you know. You get these people who are like that, and they just yelling, talking really loudly, getting in everyone's face. Everyone walks past, you have to ask them a stupid question. You know, you get them in pubs, you get them on trains, you get them everywhere, even on streets and in shops and stuff like that. It's one of these kinds of people. And so we was just, God, they're bloody awful. And like, it's one of those embarrassing situations, you know, because you can't really do anything because the driver's there. It's his job to do it. And if you try to tackle them, then you'll get into trouble, and you'll probably end up getting kicked off the coach yourself. So no one said anything, but thank God they got off at Barnsley. And then the coach went quiet and it was peaceful. You could just see everyone breathing a sigh of relief. Northumberland Street, this is it. It's Leeds Road I've got to get to. So that was a bloody relief, I'll tell you. When they got off at Barnsley. I was expecting like the big half-hour wait in Leeds, because that's what you get when you go to and from Newcastle, but I didn't get it this time. So I'm now going to go to the hotel, and while I was on the coach, I was sitting quite close to these people because they were at the back, so they were sort of like, they set up camp on the back seat, and everyone who went up to the toilet, they'd say something stupid to them. You know, ask them a stupid question or something like that, you know. It's usually was swearing in it. Oh, they were bloody horrible. And, yeah, so, I had a book to read. I'll show you the book in a little while. It's quite interesting. There's an interesting story behind the book I was reading. But anyway, I'm going to stop filming now, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait for Tino and the others to get here, because Tino and Larry and a few other people are coming, and I'm going to meet up with them later in Holmfirth. And getting to Holmfirth, I've got to get back into the bus station, get to the bus station, and then head for Holmfirth. But right now, I'm just going to go to my hotel. Okay, I've arrived in my hotel, and it's nice, reasonable kind of accommodation. I'm not fussy about things like that. I really am not. I'm just kind of easygoing when it comes to accommodation. I'm not like Richard Hoagland. I'm sure you've heard the story about Richard Hoagland turning up at the 2011 Exit Politics or 2012 Exit Politics gig and not being satisfied with the accommodation. Hi, how are you? Yeah, so I'm here. I'm just waiting for a while. I might have a little sleep actually. It's only about 4 o'clock. I'm going to meet up with some of the guys later down in Holmfirth. As you can see here, there is a view from my window, but it's not as ravishing as the one I had last time I stayed in this Travelodge. You see, I think I might be on the other side of the building last time, because I had a view right over the Pennines, and this one's facing the opposite direction, so I don't get that. But I got the canal and the industrial estate. Not quite so picturesque, but I don't mind. I'm not planning to spend very long in this room anyway. Strange image. I wonder if that's an orb. Anyway, I'm here. I've got some. I forgot to eat those earlier. This is my bag of books that I've been lugging around with me. Pretty heavy stuff. Hopefully it'll be a lot lighter when I go home, obviously. And I've got this book here, so if you're interested. The Roswell Conspiracy by Boyd Morrison. Now, here we are, 1947, a 10-year-old, which witnesses the Roswell crash, yeah, and then it comes back to the present day, and they go. I mean, I've just sort of been reading a bit of it. It's there's an interesting story behind this little book actually, because somebody on Facebook, what should I call him? Well, someone on Facebook contacted me. I'll call him John Smith. That's not his real name. His real name is Paul Armstrong. So John Smith contacted me and said, Ben, look, you're not the only one to come up with this idea. Someone else has done it as well. When talking about my books, writing a fictionalisation of the Roswell incident. And so I said, oh, wow, I see. So I see. This is from 2012. This book came out. So of course I got a copy and I've been reading it, and I think John's intention was to try and make me feel a bit, a bit miffed. I think he was trying. He's a bit of a wind-up merchant actually, and I think he was trying to make me feel uncomfortable, make me feel a bit insecure or worried that I was copying someone else's idea, etc. Even if inadvertently. But from just reading like half of this book, which I did on the journey, it's pretty clear it's completely different to my books, completely and utterly. It is a book about the Roswell incident, but it's based on the Roswell incident, but it's absolutely a thrilling race against time to discover what really happened at Roswell. It's actually nothing like my book. I don't want to give you spoilers in case you want to read it yourself, but it's totally different. Even before reading only half of it makes that clear. So, as I said to John, you know, it's not exactly a shoulder jostling market. You know, there's plenty of room for us all. I'm not bothered. I'm saying, well, good for this guy. If he wants to write a book about Roswell, that's absolutely fine by me. well done. Good luck to him, I say. Okay, so I'm just gonna skulk around here for a bit longer, and then maybe watch a bit of TV. What sort of shower have I got? Hang on a minute. What sort of bath have I got? I've got a shower and what's a psycho shower. Yeah, it's not one of those ones you pull up. Just the ceiling mounted psycho shower. How do they get the camera angle like that when there's water coming down? Do you notice that in the film? They don't get any. There's no splashes on the lens. It's very amazing that. Caution. Please take care. All right, they don't want to be sued by idiots who don't know how to take a shower properly. All right, yeah. And it's still there. Look. Do you know what I showed you? It's still there. That mark. Yeah, and there is something in there, as I've explained previously. Right, see you later. Well, we have a waxing crescent moon. It's like Panwo Radio space weather. Well, it's about 8 o'clock. I'm getting dark. We're getting close to the equinox now, and I'm not going to go home for tonight. I'm going to stay here in Huddersfield. I got talking to a guy at a hotel who's going to the conference, and I'll probably have a beer with him later. Or something like that. He's a nice chap. So, I've had texts from people, and most of them are coming tomorrow, it seems. So I'll probably see more of them tomorrow night in Holmfirth. Tonight is probably there's a nice pub, Yorkshire Rose, and it's right by the hotel. Yeah. I remember I was on one of those windows there last time because I remember seeing the coffee shop, sort of like the cleaners were in there at 3 in the morning when I couldn't sleep, and that's where you get a good view of UFO Alley. Looks nice in it, doesn't it? Yeah. Well, it's called UFO Alley. It's the area around Todmorden, but you can sort of see the Pennines. I don't know if that is actually UFO Alley, but you can see the huge, bleak Pennine Mountains, which seem to be a centre of UFO activity in Britain. And of course, what I was saying earlier, it does go through my head every now and again that, you know, we could be literally 3 hours away from, or 2 hours, sorry, 2 hours or so away from disclosure. I mean, I don't think that every single Friday evening, but when it's a UFO conference, I do. I'm just going through the Pelican Crossing here. I do get that feeling every Friday evening when I'm at a UFO conference. I think this could be the disclosure day, you know. It's just, I can't get it out of my head, as I've said before. it's almost like a double bind inside me, but it is enticingly possible. It's like the irresistible force on the immovable object. It's something that is inevitable and impossible at the same time. It has an almost an otherworldly quality about it. This is something I try to capture in my books, actually, my fictionalizations of what disclosure might be like. But, you know, to be honest, I don't think I did it credit. I mean, it's not possible to do it credit. Maybe it is a kind of it's something that's not really conceivable at the moment because the world is so different now, and because it's inconceivable, then we can't necessarily describe it. I mean, I don't like quoting Karl Marx because, of course, I don't agree with him and think he was a New World Order hack, but he did say something very interesting once. We should not write the recipe books for the cooks of the future. Meaning that sometimes you can't necessarily, if you try to predict too much what's coming, it's just not going to work. Light doesn't work, hang on. Then inevitably it's going to be sort of half-hearted, it's going to be bland, whatever your fictional description. This is speaking purely in fictional terms now. There's nothing wrong with books like AD, which I talked about earlier, which do actually are more of an intellectual analysis, whereas my book is a fiction. It's a novel. It's fiction. It's an attempt to portray an actual setting, and that's totally different. That doesn't mean I think That doesn't mean I made a mistake in doing those books. It just means that the setting I portrayed is likely to be wildly accurate, wildly inaccurate. That's just a thought. Anyway, I'm a bit hungry now. Let's see if I can find somewhere I can get some food, and maybe meet the fella I was talking to later on for a drink. I've got his number, so I know where he's. I know which hotel room he is. I've got his phone number. So let's see if we can find somewhere. Okay, I've reached the city centre of Huddersfield. That's dark up there, isn't it? One thing I must say about Huddersfield, it is a dark city. And that's, I'm sure Jennifer Ann will see that's a play on the title of her novel, but it is dark. There's usually less street light than you get in most places. So I'm looking around myself now. And the thing is, like, I eat out so rarely. It's really quite exciting when you actually have a choice of different things you can eat. Pizza Hut, McDonald's, Wetherspoon, you know, it's a rare treat for me. See, that's one of the things of being single, is you don't eat out very much. It tends to be a special occasion. When I was with Sue Stain, we used to go out all the time. Right, I think I've got to head in the right direction now. Find the way to the bus station. Now, one of the things I've got to do. There's a signpost over there. I'll go over there in a moment. One of the things I've got to do is I've got to go to the bus station and check out the bus times for Holmfirth, because I'm going to have to get up quite early in the morning and head for Holmfirth, whatever you call it, however you pronounce that. And so I want to be able to check the bus times now. Let's have a look. Bus station, that way, right. There's a Nando's over there. I might nip in there. It's I don't want to have to sort of do either of the two things that often go wrong when you get in a bus early in the morning and you haven't checked the times. That is, you either end up late because you didn't know when the buses were leaving and there's not one when you need one, or you get there too early and have to sit around for half an hour in the bus station. I don't want either of those things. So I'm going to check the bus stop. I'm going to check the bus times now, and then I will know tomorrow morning. Also check the route, because just remind myself of where I've got to go. Because I've been here before, I remember. I stayed here this is the third time I stayed here actually, because I stayed here in 2012, or 2013 during the Exopolitics conference based on alien life, the extraterrestrial life conference was held here. I miss those, you know. Anthony Beckett, he can't really do anymore. He's got too much in his personal life to deal with. But I do miss those. They were damn good conferences. Luckily, the videos, the reportages I made are online if you want to see them. Okay. Any more signposts? Oh dear, I'm lost again. Never mind. I'll find it. Right, I've just been in the bus station. I had a look at the timetables. I must say I'm disappointed. The buses are much less frequent than I remember them, because when I came here the first time, I got a bus every time. I got a bus to Holmfirth every time quite easily. Now, well, there's one at 8:20 tomorrow. That's the first one, because it's a Saturday, isn't it? I looked at the weekday service is pretty good, but the actual weekend service is pretty poor, and they've downgraded it since I was here last. And there's one at 8:20 tomorrow morning, which will do, and Sunday the first one's 10 AM. Well, that's no good. I'm gonna have to get a taxi. I'll just have to get a taxi. I'm just going to find out about taxis now. I was hoping there'd be some parked outside the bus station. There's not. So, but there's a taxi rank up here somewhere. I remember seeing it on the map. I remember made a mental note that I might need it. So, well, I can ask at the hotel. They'll know all about taxis. But it's a bit, it's not as good as I remember it. Or maybe my friend. I'll see what he's doing, because I think he's driving. But it depends what time he's going, because I need to get up there before he does, because he's like a delegate. Well, I'm a delegate, but I've got a stall to set up, so I might have to leave before him. So I'll see him. Besides, he's someone I don't know that well. I don't want to be cheeky, but I'll ask him if when he's heading up, maybe he could like give me a lift. Oh, don't worry. Anyway, I better go and get some scran because I'm a bit hungry. Okay, I'm back at the station square now, which is actually called St George's Square. There's the neoclassical portico. I'll try and get a taxi there at any time. I'm going back to the hotel. Believe it or not, I just ate in McDonald's. Don't lose interest in me. I did. Well, it just seemed like it was quick and simple and cheap, and I thought, what the hell? It's not like I don't go in there all the time. I've seen the videos of the burgers that don't break down and things like that, you know. I know, this should be Northumberland Avenue, yes it is, right. I've seen the videos of the burgers that, the 10-year-old burgers and stuff like that, you know, I know that, you know, but I was just, I didn't want to faff around. I just wanted to get it done, you know. So I did. But tomorrow evening I'll have something in Holmfirth. I'll go there and have something. But just tonight, make it easy, make it simple. And I'm going to go back and see this. Was that my phone? I think I heard a. Oh, my phone's going on. Hello? Oh, it's Tiberius Kirk. Oh, bless, that was Tiberius Kirk on the phone. Wanted to know where I was because we're supposed to be meeting him. Well, he said I contacted him earlier on, and he was like setting stuff up at the hall. But he wants me to come to the bridge and meet him. And I'm like, well, I did promise this guy we go to the pub. But tomorrow I'll be able to see those guys tomorrow. No problem. But you know, it's funny. I mean, it would have been easier if the buses were a bit better. They're bloody awful. So that's really what that means. Is I think I'll have to make sure I get my accommodation in Holmfirth, which is not easy because Holmfirth sells out in no time. Basically, the conference literally takes over all the guest accommodation in the entire town. Literally every single hotel is full up with conference goers. You get 150 people in a little place that size, you're going to run out of space pretty quickly. Oh well, not to worry. Oh, I miss seeing those guys tonight, but I'll see them tomorrow. I'll be there tomorrow and Sunday. I'll see them then. So that'll be all right, I think. You know.
Come back home now. It's about midnight. I say back home. I'm back at the hotel. It's about midnight, and the sky's quite clear, but a few clouds around. But no UFOs up there. And as I said before, I'm facing in the wrong direction to see the Pennines. So I can't see any at the moment. There's a red light over there. I think that's a mast. Reminds me of when I was in Devon. But yeah, very strange. That was a really strange one, yeah. But this is different. Oh, let's look forward to tomorrow now. UFO Truth Conference, UFO Truth Magazine Conference, the 6th international one, starts tomorrow.
Okay, Saturday morning. It's 7:30, and I'm heading for the bus station to get my bus to Holmfirth for the first day of the UFO Truth Magazine Conference 2018, the 6th International UFO Truth Magazine Conference. There's a light rain falling, and it's a bit wet, slightly wet and damp, a bit chilly, but I'm not going to complain. We haven't got Hurricane Florence here like they've got in the United States. And in fact, it's been I've been watching the news on the TV in my hotel room, and yeah, it looks pretty bad. I feel what's that up there? I feel sorry for those people. I mean, I'm not going to complain about our weather. Not when we have this sort of thing here. Just a little bit of rain, you know. Sorry, I got distracted there. Obviously we didn't have disclosure last night, otherwise it would have been mentioned on the BBC. Even the cucked BBC propaganda arm of the government can't keep something like that quiet. So I'm not going to be cracking open my disclosure champagne. I didn't bring it with me anyway. That's something I did leave out of my luggage because I thought, well, you know, need to necessity, likelihood, possibility ratio, you know. So I left it at home. But if we get disclosure, I'd have gone home. Well, I'd have spent time at the conference and I'd have gone home and I'd have cracked open the champagne. That's it. Ah, yeah. So here I. Yeah, I'm thinking about these people who keep bottles for special occasions. There was when Margaret Thatcher died, there was this woman who. There's a Yorkshire woman actually, and Maggie Thatcher's not popular in this part of the country. She had a bottle of champagne in her fridge, waiting for the day Margaret Thatcher died. She'd been keeping it there for 26 years. And they filmed her popping the cork and drinking it because she died. Honestly, I don't think she was that bad compared to Blair, you know. Anyway, I digress. So I don't know what I remember what the order of speakers was, simply because Gary did tell me when I did an interview with him, Gary Hazeltine, the organiser, a couple of weeks ago on her Panama radio. But I haven't got the document with me. I'll get one when I go through the door, I'm sure. But I got my books weighing me down in my other hand. That's why you see the camera wheel when I press buttons to operate Pelicans. It's bloody heavy, but it's going to be lighter when I come home. Yes, it is. Hopefully, I mean, this is probably the biggest sales opportunity I've got for this year. This is the biggest UFO Paracon conference in the country, bar none. Even the Glastonbury Symposium, I think, doesn't get that many doesn't get as many as UFO Truth these days. So hopefully I've got about 15 books with me. I've got 3 that I didn't sell in Newcastle, plus another 12, 13 or 14 that I bought. So I've got a few more. So they're all reveals. The ones I didn't sell were reveals. I've got 3 extra reveals and I have revisings, but that's to be expected because a lot of people have read Rising and now want revealed, because Rising's been out for 2 years now, revealed just for 1. So hopefully I'll sell more reveals than Risings, but because I sold that first time I sold Rising at UFO Truth, I sold every one. I bought about 10 copies with me. I sold them all on the first day. So those people might want revealed now. Get a signed copy, be worth a lot of money in a few years. My new book, Roswell Redeemed, you might have seen the trailer. It's nearing completion. I reckon give me another month should do it, actually. Bearing in mind, I'm writing it in my time between, because I've got a job like most people, things like that, so I'm writing it in between other things I do, and making Panama TV videos and doing Panama radio shows. That's green, I've got to stay green. Right, so I'm now going to proceed to the bus station, and next time I report will probably be in Holmfirth. Alright, I'm in Holmfirth now, and this little street here is typical of Holmfirth, these little stone buildings. And then, what you get in Holmfirth a lot of the time, you get these little steps. Lots of little alleyways and steps. Reminds me of The Exorcist. Oh, here we go then, let's go up these steps. Yeah, I managed to get a bus at 8 o'clock in the end. The bus timetable was not very comprehensive actually, because I wasn't sure when to get one back. I might have to get a taxi back, I'm not sure. It might be simpler, worth paying the money just to have make things a bit simpler. But here I am. And the Civic Hall is over here. So I'm going to head there now. Got my books all ready to set up. Oh, I'm excited. Should be fun. I don't know who else is going to be there, except Tino and Larry and Gary, of course. As for the others, the delegates, Miles was going to go, but I don't think he can make it now. Who else? Oh, the Truth Seekers Northeast people are coming, so that'll be nice. Oh, these are lovely, aren't they? Gallery and studio. That's nice. £909 now, not quite worth it that much, but still very, very pleasant. Very pleasant indeed. And here it is. This is the Holford Civic Hall, home of the UFO Truth Magazine Conference. And there was one where they had it in the big theatre, if you remember. I don't know if I recorded that one. And here it is. The UFO Truth Magazine Conference. Yeah. I'm a bit early, so let's see if anyone's in. There we are. And now it's rolling.
Let's record.
Okay, yeah. Oh yeah, that's my cameraman is holding up. Sorry, what's your name again?
It's Mark.
Mark, pardon me. Mark and Joanne, yes, yeah. And Mark's my cameraman, and this is my stall. As you can see, if you will, by the time you watch this, you won't be able to see this, but you can buy a copy of Roswell Rising or Roswell Dream for £10 or £15 for both, which I will sign. It'll be worth a lot of money in a few years. Or you can get your Dreaming Saucers t-shirt for £10, available in all sizes, designed by me and Tino. So yeah, and this is the designer himself. So come along to next year's conference, won't you? If you didn't come to this one. Well, hopefully these seats will all be full soon. As you can see, there's a cafe area over there, and I'll show you these stalls later. And they are. Everyone's just getting ready for Robert Fleischer. Robert Fleischer is here, the German guy. Want them to say hello to him, brilliant banners these, look. If he's already here, that's true, he is already here. Good slogan, that. Allowing get away with it, that's fine. Video you can. But over here, that's Jan Hounik on there, I think. Yeah. There we are. We can. There's a piano there. We can play the Close Encounters chords on there. Looks good. It's exciting at the moment. The delegates haven't allowed in yet, so it's just basically the organisers and the stall holders who are just setting up now. Yeah. Oh, good one, that. It's funny you played that, because I was just walking up that little alleyway earlier on, and I said this reminds me of The Exorcist.
Yeah.
And they are playing the tune. The tune. I can do it, look. Perfect theme, I think, for all this. I don't know how much you can see at the moment, but the lights are down. So I'm talking to the camera. The lights are down at the moment. I don't know how much you can see, but they're just doing a lighting test at the moment, just before they allow the rabble to come in and do their stuff. And Steve Mayer is over there. Can you see him? Funnily enough, I recognise Steve Mehrer in the dark. He's pretty unmistakable with his baseball cap and his beard, and the fact that he's about 7 feet tall. So I'm already meeting people I know. I saw my friend Colin was out there, not Colin Wolf, but another guy. The black guy I interviewed in the first one, and he's here. I've seen a couple of other people. The lady on the stall next to me, I don't know if she wants to be filmed. I recognised her, so I'm already seeing people I know, old friends coming back to me, which is really cool. So this is the stage. They're just checking that the lighting all works out, so that's good. And we're all set to go in a minute, I think.
She was trying to look at you. What was it, stools today?
Hello everyone, I am, the day's finished and I haven't had a chance to film all day, so I don't have any reports for today. I'll just have to do something later, I'm sorry. It's been just so busy, I haven't had time to get outside and do some filming. Sorry! Oh, I'm here with my friends here. Karen, Vicky and Treve, so...
Call me wrong name again.
Kerry, Vicky and Treve, sorry. See ya.
Okay, it's about midnight. Very interesting day. I'm so sorry I couldn't do some more filming. This is when I'm doing my stall. I can't pop out to film. I'm going out during the speakers just to get some fresh air or some food or something. It's just not easy to do filming. Robert Fleischer, very interesting German guy. Talking about German ufology. Robert Forster, Ancient Aliens, talking about ancient mysteries of Machu Picchu and other places, connection to higher technologies. Andrew Collins talking about astrology and in ancient Egyptian buildings. Don Schmidt, great Roswell researcher, gathered all the evidence, the witness testimony, brilliant stuff. Oh yeah, all in all, yeah, it was a good day. And sorry I can't be more detailed with this vlog. Yeah, had a lovely meal at the curry house, and now coming home, coming back to the hotel, and I'm gonna go to bed. So night everyone. I'm sitting in Huddersfield bus station, awaiting the bus to Holmfirth, and there is one apparently at 10 to 9, and it's now about 20. It's now 20 past 8. It's only got half hour to wait. Oh, excuse me. It gets there at 15:15, which is good. I've got my friend Malcolm with me, who's a bit camera shy. He's a chap you might know from the chat box, in the Panama Radio chat box. What's his username? I can't remember. But I'm sorry this isn't a better reportage, because I've just haven't had time to film. And that's something what seems to happen when I've got books to sell. I can't. Normally when I do my filming and my reports on the various speakers, it's during the breaks. I don't have time. I mean, in the lunch hour I was basically selling, and then Richard Wright was there, and he basically dawned from Truth Seekers North. He's minding my stall. I went and got a pint with him, and we were talking, and I don't see him very often, so I spent that time socialising with Richard, which means I didn't. It's very difficult to do this reportage when I've got books to sell. But the good news is I sold 6 books. Sold 4 reveals, 2 risings, and I brought more reveals than risings because I know some people have already read the first book and they want the second. But that's something anyway. But excellent day. I mean, the speakers were great. We had Robert Fleischer from Germany talking about the German UFO situation, and he did a big he did a Richard D. Hall on the German authorities and various things, like when Hall challenged David Cameron when he was doing his election tour, whether he lifted the secrets on UFOs. He did the same. There was a video he showed actually, which was in German, of course, subtitle. I couldn't read the subtitles, maybe my eyesight's not too good, but I couldn't understand what was being said. I mean, I learned German at school, but that was a very long time ago. I've forgotten it all. But you could tell that he was taking a piss. Exactly like Cameron did. He made a big joke about it. Which is disreputable, very disreputable. But of course they do, don't they? That's how they treat the subject. The next speaker was Robert Forster, who did like an armchair interview with Gary, which Gary Hazeltine is famous for, talking about the ancient aliens and about the Paracas skulls and things like that. That was amazing. That was, and about the megaliths that are at the Inca sites, which weren't built by the Incas. They're much older. And then he's doing another speech today, Robert Forster. Then we had Andrew Collins. Now he's a character and a half. He's an Egyptologist, but he covers other things as well, like various ancient mysteries, things to do with astrology. And if you watched my, I don't know if you, how many of you watched my St. Friedwide video? That was basically, I did that because of his book, The 21st Century Grail. I went to that stakeout. I heard that strange voice in my ear. Remember? And then there was Don Schmidt. Now I think he was my favourite speaker, basically because he talked about Roswell. He talked about his Roswell career, and his book Witness to Roswell, which I've read, is an excellent book. I think it's one of the best books about Roswell.
This is a public announcement. For your safety, do not walk on the bus carriageway. Please use the designated pedestrian walkways, crossing points, and exits at all times.
Yes, sir.
It is against the law to smoke inside the bus station. Smoking is not permitted outside the entrances, bus stands, and the perimeter of the station. Thank you for your cooperation.
This is for your protection. We love Big Brother. Now, honestly, I suppose that's safety. You know, it's not. They're not enforcing political correctness on us. But yeah, what was I saying? Yeah, Don Schmidt, Witness to Roswell, is an excellent book. Basically, he gets hold of all the people, because the skeptics say it was a weather balloon, it was Project Mogul, it was parachute test dummies. Whereas Don Schmidt and his fellow author, Tom Carey, have demolished this through actually speaking to the people who encountered the Roswell. He spoke to a lot of them independently, like he spoke to people that have not been spoke to before, like the people who flew the plane. They flew a plane from Roswell to Fort Worth with the aliens in it and the wreckage. And he managed to track down these guys. They're old men now. A couple of them were dead, but there were about 5 men on the crew, and 3 of them were still alive. Well, there was 7 on the crew, and 5 were still alive, or something like that. And they all said the same thing. After all these years, I mean, this was like more than 50 years later, because it was 50 or 60 years when did he write that book? I think it came out in the mid 2000s, I think.
Which one?
Witness to Roswell.
I don't know.
I think it was mid 2000s that came out. So we're talking like 60 years, and nearly 60 years. And the men said the same thing. They all said no, it wasn't the furniture for General Ramey. It wasn't a weather balloon. It wasn't anything. It was something completely unprecedentedly strange, including those other guys who actually saw the aliens, things like that. One of the base chaplain had to do last rites over the aliens because this was a Christian nation, which reminds me a little bit of the Fort Girardeau incident, where again where the pastor had to do last rites over these aliens. Charlotte Mann's grandfather had to do last rites over these aliens. Things like that, you know. It's like so that's kind of so that's Don Schmidt is an absolutely he's very passionate, he's very fiery, he doesn't suffer fools gladly, which is good. He doesn't and there's a lot of fools in this business, a hell of a lot, you know, saying, but can't you see, it was swamp gas, it was nothing but swamp gas, it was a weather balloon, and it was parachute test dummies. I know the parachute test dummies look like humans, not like aliens, and they actually dropped them 5 years later, but it was still parachute test dummies, which is more likely, use Occam's razor and all this sort of thing, right? Don Schmidt, he eviscerates these people. Really good. It was good to meet him. I got to shake his hand and say hello. I have to buy one of his books. Hopefully I can sell him a Roswell Rising. I think he'll like that. So hopefully I get a chance to talk to him a bit today. Sonny, my goodness me, time goes quick, doesn't it? Yeah, today Well, there's going to be a lot of talk about Rendlesham Forest, and I am going to be hopefully interviewed by Indigo Transmit Films for the new upcoming documentary Capel Green. There's a bus that is that one ours? Let's see. That's going to Leeds. I'm not going there. This is an Exopolitics Expo. It's a shame, you know, that those aren't going anymore. The Leeds Exopolitics Expos. Remember those?
Oh, I've been more.
They were brilliant. Yeah, they were absolutely brilliant. But unfortunately, the organiser, Anthony Beckett, he's got too many problems in his personal life to deal with right now, and I don't blame him. He's done a hell of a lot to produce those excellent conferences. And the good news is the videos. I've got the videos I made are online if you want to see them. So that's something. But maybe he'll do one again one day. I hope so. Anyway, I've got to get to Holmfirth now. See you later. Location here. This is the road between Huddersfield and Holmfirth. See the hills. It's raining at the moment, so it's really quite nice.
The old train station.
So, where is it? So that's an old railway station there. I love these buildings, the stone and the slate roofs and stuff like that. Really nice. Look at these steep hills. If you're not used to hills like I am, living in Oxford, these steep roads really take some getting used to. Holmfirth is where they filmed Last of the Summer Wine. You can just imagine Compo, Clegg and Foggy walking along here, can't you? Looking for Nora Batty. And here we are, look, the sun's trying to come through. And this Holmfirth is really, really cool. Really nice. As I said, this is where they filmed Last of the Summer Wine. Now, this is, if you've not seen it, it's a really fantastic comedy series. It's really sweet, kind of like, and genteel, but very witty. It follows the plight of these. There's three main characters with three old men who sort of wander around this town, Holmfirth, doing really, really crazy things. The kind of things. Often they make pranks that a little kid would make. A lot of pranks, sort of things that little kids would do. And there's they're very different sort of characters. There's like Foggy, who's he's the brains of the team, and Clegg, who's Peter Sallis, with the unique voice of Wallace and Gromit. You know, he does he's sort of like the calming influence, and there's Compo, who's like he's the id of the three. He's the rather exuberant extrovert, sort of wild card sort of character, who is he's also very amorous, and he's very keen on women. One woman in particular is Nora Batty, who's herself a very prudish old woman, who's runs like she runs a kind of like women's institute type thing with these other women, these other old ladies who are like, I think Thora Hird is one of them. But it's a hugely successful comedy and all over the world. And I mean, when it was at its heyday, this town used to have floods of Japanese tourists coming here. They wanted to see where Last of the Summer Wine was filmed. And if you want to see it, you can very easily. It's luckily a lot of them are on YouTube. You get them on UK Gold and Dave and all these various cable channels. They're always doing reruns of them. But I remember when I was a little kid, I used to really like it because these were like old men who acted like children. Well, they were obviously like mature men who dressed. They didn't act like children. They didn't dress like children or anything like that. But they used to. Most of the humour used to come from various pranks and practical jokes and other things they used to do, which were kind of like the thing a kid would do. And it was absolutely adorable TV show. They just wouldn't make it now. They just couldn't. They couldn't. Because like most comedy, in those most decent comedy, it's quite politically incorrect, and it is something you couldn't. There wouldn't be passed through the cultural Marxist censors of the modern BBC or any other TV channel for that moment. But it was really, you know, it was one of the most benign comedies imaginable. There was no swearing in it. There was obviously there was sex, or reference to sex, because of Compo's pursuit of Nora Batty and the various things they often used to do. Things like steal her knickers from a washing line and things like that. But it was all harmless. It was all very sort of it was very sweet and innocuous kind of references. And here we are. I think we're one of the first to arrive. Who's here now? Who's here ahead of me? I can't see anyone. Oh, there's Lynn and someone else. Alright, so I'll see you later. Bloody hell, what a day. What a day it's been. The conference is over and we're just putting everything away right now. It's been, I think, one of the most amazing days of any conference I've ever been to, ever. I will go as far as to say that. I'll have to say more later, because you know what it's like. I'm tired and haven't had time to film much. I'm going to go to the pub in a minute, but I'll say more later. Okay, I'm home. No, I'm not home. I'm back at the hotel. It's midnight. I'm absolutely tired. And oh, what a day! Well, I got a cab back from Holmfirth with Malcolm. I'm tired. I'm not going to say any more today. Not right now. I'll say more tomorrow morning. But all I can tell you is that this is one of the most incredible days I've ever had at a UFO conference. This whole particular conference has been one of the most incredible ever. But today, in particular, this day was one of the most incredible UFO conference days I've ever been to. Gary Hazeltine should be congratulated, and everyone else involved. I think today we have watched UFO history being made, and I'll say more about that tomorrow because I'm just too tired right now. And like I said, I can't really do my normal reportage reports because it's just like when I'm selling books. Oh, by the way, I sold almost all my books. I left 4 Roswell Risings. That's all I've got left. I sold all the others. I'll say more about that tomorrow as well. But I'm going to bed now, so night. Well, it's Monday morning. The UFO Truth Magazine Conference 2018, the 6th International UFO Truth Magazine Conference, is over. The 6th one. You know, I've been to all of them, every single one, since they started. They started in a little back room in the Bridge Hotel, where we were having a drink last night, and the night before, and the night before that. There was like a little function room, which is now the main bar, since they redesigned it, but there was about maybe 30 people, 40 people in there. I reckon he filled every seat this time, Gary. Because it moved from the Bridge, and it moved into the Civic Hall, into the small room upstairs, and then it's gradually expanded. It went down to the big room downstairs. One year he was in the Picture Dome, the big theatre in the middle of Holmfirth, and it's gone back to the big room in the Civic Hall. As you saw, it's all very well designed. It had like pink chairs for the cafe, blue chairs for people to sit on, vending tables very well arranged. There's like a lot of it's really I didn't see an empty seat. I think he sold out. A lot of people turned up on the day, which was risky because he almost sold out from pre-bookings last few days. But he turned up. He sold out. He filled every seat. Now the UFO Truth Magazine gets better and better and better every year. It really is the premier UFO conspiracy paranormal conference in the country, and not just UFOs. I'm saying UFO Paracon, the whole field. It really is. And I've got to congratulate Gary and thank him for doing such a good job of organising this. Literally, I mean, he's really excellent at this sort of thing. He's pretty much an all-rounder. He's a good researcher, good speaker, journalist, and organiser. Now me, I mean, I can speak, I can write, I can do all these things really well. But when it comes to organising, it is an effort for me, and I think I don't have a natural talent for it. Doesn't mean I can't do it, but it just means it takes extra effort on my part. I'm not a natural. And I couldn't have done Dreaming Sources without the help of a large number of people who I talked about in my video. So excellent work, and absolutely fantastic. And as always, there was a bit of a surprise. Every single UFO Truth magazine conference has a surprise, but never has there been a surprise like this one, I'll tell you. And I'll come on to that in a minute, because I want to go into that in detail. Firstly, sorry to see that Alan Godfrey couldn't be there. Alan Godfrey is, again, his background is very similar to Larry Warren's, actually. He was a police officer who had a UFO encounter, and then his life went downhill as a result. And I think he's still suffering from it, like Larry is. He was persecuted in various different ways. He's got a book, actually, which I showed you in my probe video, which I bought and he signed, which has taken him almost 30 years to write the book. It's not very long, but I mean, obviously he's put a lot of effort into this book. So there was that, and so he couldn't make it because he's ill, and I'm sorry. He's quite seriously ill, and I wish him all the best. I wish him a complete and speedy recovery, obviously. But they had Dave Hodrian instead, from the Birmingham UFO group, who did an excellent job, really good job. One piece of maybe good news or bad news is there was no UFO Mastermind this year, which means I didn't have to defend my title. I am still the undisputed UFO Truth Magazine Mastermind of the world. And I've got the anorak to prove it. The anorak and the binoculars and the woolly hat, yeah. It's so that was really amazing. Interestingly, I just remembered something I was going to say at the beginning and wonder if it would happen, but of course it's a bit of a no-brainer. Of course it wasn't going to happen. I got into an argument with someone on YouTube in the comments section of one of Kevin Logan's videos, a big sort of skeptic SJW person, and he said he started abusing me, calling me a conspiracy lunatic and stuff like that. And I said, "Do you want to say these things to my face?" And he says, "Yeah, I'll say these things to your face." And so I said, "All right, well, I told him I'll be at the UFO Truth Magazine conference. Come up and introduce yourself, and we'll step outside into a public area, out of sight, and we'll resolve the matter like two gentlemen." Of course, he never turned up, did he? They never do. Just like Droik. Remember that video? If you watch regularly, you'll know about Droik. Yep, they never turned up. So, really, I'd forgotten about it because it's pretty obvious it wasn't going to happen. No doubt they'll just continue to abuse me online when I see them next, because that's all they can do. That's typical of the trolls. And that brings us on to the subject of trolls. On the subject of trolls, they're going to be very disappointed with what happened yesterday in particular. As I said last night when I got home, we watched UFO history being made yesterday. Gary always has surprises, like I said, but none were quite like this. What happened was, like, Saturday was pretty amazing, it was incredible, but Sunday was out of this world, and for me especially. I went in with I went to my stall, and by the way, I sold almost all my books. I've sold all but 4 Roswell Risings. So that's a little aside there. That's only the minor side of that. But my bag is now very light, which is good. Steve Longero was there. Now, Steve Longero is someone who's not been in the public eye ever. He's lived an ordinary life in peace and quiet and away from the media spotlight. And I understand why someone would want to do that. But Steve Longero is a fellow witness to the Rendlesham Forest incident of 1980. He's a friend of Larry Warren's when they were both in the US Air Force. They both went through basic training together in Texas, and then they were both deployed to the 81st Security Police Squadron at RAF Bentwaters Woodbridge, and so they were colleagues. They worked together, and Larry was pretty honest about things. He said that we weren't the best mates, but you know, we were colleagues, and we had the bond of service, and we were sort of got on all right. And we used to like going to Domino's pizzas and things like that. So he was so they were sort of like, there was that sort of relationship. I'm sure they would be much closer now, because Steve Longero told us his story for the first time ever of what happened. This has never been told firsthand from him before. He's appeared, I mean, he's been mentioned in Left at Eastgate, and I knew about him. Larry told me about him. But this was a chap who phoned up. Basically, there was a session where he came on stage, and Gary did one of his armchair interviews with this chap, Steve Longero. Steve Longero is this sort of, he's this quite tough-looking guy, actually. He was a policeman for 30 years when he got out of the US Air Force, and he's a nice guy. He looks quite he's bald and quite muscly, a bit like me, only more so. But he's a really nice chap. I was talking to him. He's a really nice chap, and he lives in California, USA. And he got in touch with Gary. He wanted to tell the truth, and Gary talked to him on the phone. And Longero issued a statement and said he'd be willing to sign an affidavit, which in US law means a statement by which you make a statement which it is a criminal offence to break. If you state an affidavit and you lie on your affidavit, then you could be in serious trouble. That's what it means, basically. And this was, he'd been on duty. Well, he was actually on duty on shift before, because like he was on what they call a swing shift, which is like the late shift, which we called it in the hospital, and which finished. Ours finished at 10. Theirs finished at 11. But that's when the mid shift came on, the night shift, which Larry was on, and that started at 11. But Steve was kept on overtime. He was kept on. He and his shift were kept on for compulsory overtime. And the only reason they would do that would be if they had some kind of emergency in progress and they needed extra personnel. He didn't actually get to bed until about 2 in the morning because of what happened. And he tells a similar story to Larry. And this is an important point, actually, because a lot of people have accused Larry of purloining other people's testimonies. And he heard other people say it. He decided to adopt the story for himself. Adrian Bustinza specifically is one of these people. However, I said this when I listened to Bustinza's testimony in the one interview Bustinza ever gave on the Jimmy Church show, Fade to Black, where he tells Jimmy and Linda Moulton Howe that what happened to him that night, and he confirms Larry was there and everything. And that's when Sasha started saying, "Oh, it's so similar to Larry's story. Look, it's so similar that Larry must have basically made up his, nicked the story, heard the story from Bustinza, and then decided to adopt it and apply it to himself." But there's distinct differences between Bustinza's testimony and Larry Warren's. And I actually mentioned this. I wrote about this in one of my articles. For example, the debriefing session. I mean, Larry's debriefing was very distressful for both men, Bustinza and Larry. Both of them were kind of given drugs, and they were threatened, things like that, as a group. Now, Bustinza's debriefing session is different. It's equally distressing, but it's different. He's separated from the others, and he's basically grilled by these very intimidating-looking men. Civilians in dark suits, and it's almost, if they had the sunglasses, it would be a complete cliche, wouldn't it? But anyway, these very rough-looking men basically threatened him, but they keep saying to him, "Look, you saw a lighthouse. You saw a lighthouse. Okay, you saw a lighthouse." And this was long before bloody Thurkettle and Ridpath came out with their lighthouse bullcrap. Who knows where they got that idea from? But this could have been because of his rank, because Larry, of course, was an airman first class. He was a new recruit. He'd only just been through his training. He's only just started active service, actually duty on the base. Whereas Bustinza was a staff sergeant, I believe. So he's a senior NCO. But this means that Larry didn't actually. What it seems to me is Larry didn't take Bustinza's testimony so much as this is what you'd expect when two men had a similar experience, because who were basically both were doing the same job at the same place at the same time. There were slight differences because of their position within the unit and other little things like that. So Sasha is completely incorrect there. She's got no reason to think that Larry actually stole the testimony from Bustinza. But anyway, back to Steve Longero, because Steve Longero is a similar situation. He was basically told to go and get the light halls, these big portable floodlights with their own built-in generators. He had to get them along with Larry. He said Larry was there. They went into the woods, formed basically the light halls were there to provide light so that people could see what they were doing. And he confirmed that Larry was in that position. And so all I can say to Steve Longero is, well done, mate, well done. Thank you for coming forward and speaking out. Hopefully more of the witnesses will do the same. And it's not easy to do this because, or even before he even spoke, we had Colonel Holt saying things like, oh, Steve Longero, another drinking buddy of Larry Warren's. What was that? Dave Young. Even David Young, Colonel Holt said that. Just another drinking buddy of Larry Warren's looking for 5 minutes of fame. And it's going to get worse. He's going to get worse. And he's a brave man for saying, I don't care, I'm going to do it. I'm going to say what's true anyway. Because there's a saying which is, I can't remember who said it, but it's very, very true. A man will face an army before the scorn of his peers. Speak out on an unpopular issue, knowing that you're going to be castigated for it by idiots and fools among your peers, is one of the most courageous things anyone can do. Thank you, Steve Longero. And then, so this he did his speech with Gary. Gary was absolutely firm on the matter. Nobody should record or film at all. This was absolutely stringent. He said, everyone put your cameras away, switch your mobile phones off, don't record this, this is private. And that's what happened. Then, the team that produced are producing Capel Green were there. Dion Johnson and his fellows. Tino, for example, I know, and he was there anyway. Tino, Dion Johnson, a few other people, and it was really, really good actually, because they interviewed Steve, then they interviewed Don Schmidt, the Roswell researcher who was there, and then they interviewed me. And it didn't take long actually. I didn't have much to say. I just had to do a basic summary of my own research into this matter, because Gary Hazeltine and myself are the principal researchers into this issue, and I put it quite bluntly to him. It was very, very professionally done. I mean, Dion is a professional filmmaker. He's not like me with this sort of rough vlog here. I've got my camcorder propped up on 2 books. No, he had a tripod. He had lights. He had he had a tie mic. He had an extra camera angle. He had special background ambient lights and things like that. It took him a quarter of an hour before we even started to rolling. He was really stringent in getting everything right before he interviewed me. And he said, do you want your hat on or do you want your hat off? Because actually, I'm going to put my hat on. Because just one moment, ladies and gentlemen. That's a point, actually. You get like this big, it looks like I've got a halo, you get this big white spot on my head. So, I wear a hat like that. UFO Truth magazine. So, yeah, that's I need to wash this, actually. I don't like the smell of new hats. Let me get my other hat out. Where is it? There we go. I have to wash hats before I wear them, that's better. Because you get this big white spot, which is why I always wear a hat when I'm on camera. But they basically said, well, how did you come into this? And I told them about the Scottish UFO and Paranormal Conference 2016, and I told them that I'd gone there, and this is when this was first introduced to me. And I travelled there with Tino and Larry, because they're both good friends of mine, and then Larry wasn't allowed in. And this was the last time Peter Robbins and Larry were collaborating on anything, before Peter Robbins basically lost his senses and ended up believing the trolls. God knows why. And then he asked me that, and I told him, I said, I looked into this, and I said, what Sasha wrote was a fabrication. It took very quickly, I worked out that it was superficially persuasive. It looked on the surface, it's well concocted. She can write well. She can put together a case very well. It looks superficially persuasive. But when you actually investigate it on a rational level, when you look into it on a rational level, I very quickly realised it was a fabrication. Not an embellishment, not an exaggeration, it was a fabrication. And as I've said in previous videos, I've gone into this in previous videos. Now, then there's, yeah, so that's the fundamentals of what I was talking about. That's the fundamentals of what I was saying. Now, I also mentioned in my interview with Dion that I was concerned because several people have been involved in this. And again, I didn't mention names, but we had Nick Pope. We had well, I won't say who else was there, but they're now involved. Nick Pope has written an article for Outer Limits magazine, which I reviewed. And so the question is, why? Why is Nick Pope involved in this? Why would Nick Pope be involved in something which is, you'd think would be beneath him? You see, a man in his position, which is what they call him Britain's Fox Mulder, he's the go-to guy. Whenever a UFO news story comes up, who do you have on speed dial if you're at the BBC or ITV? Nick Pope. He is one of the world's few official ufologists. Or he was anyway, he's now an independent journalist. But why would he stoop to shove his oar in to something which is so, what's the word? Trivial when you think about it. Because it is simply a personal dispute, its fundamentals, between Larry and Sasha. And the answer is because, I think it's because of a cover-up. It's a cover-up, it's to do with the cover-up of the general cover-up, the longer-term, more strategic cover-up of the Rendlesham Forest incident, which has been going on since the early 80s when it first came out, when Larry Warren first spoke out. Ever since then, there's been a damage management scenario, a damage control scenario being enacted by the keepers of the truth embargo, Steve Bassett calls them, to prevent the truth about the Rendlesham Forest becoming public knowledge. And they've done this through various means throughout the years, and this is just another battle in the war to keep the RFI quiet and keep it under wraps. And I'm not saying Sasha Christie is an active disinformation agent. I'm absolutely certain she's not. I believe her motives for attacking Larry Warren are personal. It's because of a personal bust-up between the two, who were good friends, but then their relationship broke down catastrophically, and this is why she's doing it. That is her objective. However, it appears she might have inadvertently struck the right note, which those with deeper, more sinister agendas want to amplify, and so they're amplifying it. She's a useful idiot, in other words, to put it bluntly. Nick Pope, I'm glad the gloves are off and the battle lines are drawn, because he's abandoned any pretense. He's now quite openly speaking out in terms of discrediting the genuine UFO phenomenon, and he's doing it from the United States. He now lives with his wife Elizabeth in the United States. And, you've heard my joke, haven't you? I'm not going to repeat my joke about Nick Pope. Have any of you not heard my Nick Pope joke? Any of you? Alright, for those of you who've already heard it and don't want to roll your eyes and groan, just plug up your ears for the next 10 seconds, okay? Alright, Nick Pope got married to this woman Elizabeth at the UFO conference in Arizona. They actually went off and had a service, and the vicar was standing in front of them and saying, "Nicholas, do you take this woman Elizabeth to be your lawful wedded wife, to have and hold from this day forward, better or worse, richer or poorer, till death do you part?" Nick replied, "I can neither confirm nor deny that." Okay, you can listen again if you've heard that joke before, because I've told it loads of times. All right, so that's what I think is going on. That's what I think is happening with Pope. Same with David Young. Again, this is they are being used, I think, to cover up the Rendlesham Forest incident. Now, what happened? What else should I say on this matter? Yeah, this has been a vindication for Larry. It's a complete vindication for him. He, in a sense, has proven himself genuine. And what I mean by this is because there was more. Once Steve had done this interview and he'd done his talk, then there was we saw a little clip of the upcoming film Capel Green. Again, there's strictly no filming here because this is part of a movie in progress. But we were shown a clip of Capel Green with Dion Johnson, which Dion Johnson's directing. And it was Gary said that we might have a tear in our eye by the end of it, and he said it's actually a bit of a tearjerker, and it was, because you actually see the scene where Larry Warren goes through his polygraph. Obviously, it may be cut down a little bit, but you see him going in, and Patty, the polygraph lady, she says, "Larry," she says, "if there's anything you haven't told me, anything you've told me that's not true, you need to disclose it now, because this polygraph will detect it and you will fail the test." And he says, "No, I'm happy to go." Very confident he was. And so they do this test, and Larry sits there. She puts the thing on her. It's like it's a bit like Meet the Parents, you know, that scene with Robert De Niro and Ben Stiller. It's hilarious. But this wasn't funny. This was serious. And at the end, she says, "Well, Larry, I'm pleased to say you've passed the test." And Larry breaks down and cries. And he goes, And Gary told that's what people often do when they're vindicated, when they protest their innocence and then their innocence is proved. Yeah, that's and so that was moving. It was moving to see that, and it must have been a wonderful day for Larry yesterday, and I think he deserved it. He deserved that. He deserved that. This vindication, this final release from all the nonsense that's been talked about him for so long, for 38 years. The last 2 years have just been like the latest episode and various attacks against him. Absolutely fantastic day. And then it wasn't over then. It wasn't over yet though, because Gary was talking. Well, this happened at the beginning, but Gary talked about the Pentagon footage and the Tic Tac footage and things like that. Now that was very interesting. And I didn't address this the way I should have done when it broke out, because it actually came out in December 2017. And this was just a month after the publication of Roswell Revealed, so I was so busy with the promotion of the book that I didn't really have time for anything else. I was actually in the middle of an interview at the Basis Project with Colin and Miles about the new book. When Colin says, "Oh, we were in a spot between shots," and he was looking at his phone. "Ben, you know, the Pentagon just released some information about UFOs." I said, "What?" "Yeah, they've had this thing going on between 2007 and 2012. The US Senate had a big project going organised through the Department of Defense, a guy called Luis Elizondo, and they were investigating UFO sightings. And they've even got some footage that the US Navy gathered." And I was like, that's not possible, is it? Because Grant Cameron's disclosure petition in 2011, the second one, the government replied and said there's no evidence that we're being visited by anything off this world, and the government have not investigated the UFO phenomena since 1969, during the closure of Project Blue Book. And now that we know that was a complete lie. They actually lied to us. The government lied to us. Oh my God! So yeah, that was absolutely amazing. Absolutely fantastic. Yeah, and then, well, I say that, but I mean, several people have come forward saying, well, maybe all is not as it seems. Richard D. Hall has done this, Richard Dolan, and a couple of other people have said there's some anomalies within the footage and stuff like that. The question is, though, I mean, why, if this is some form of disinformation exercise, what goal is it hoping to achieve? That's the question. I mean, there's a guy on YouTube who's he's got an amazing YouTube name, actually, Mouthy Buddha. He's done loads of really good UFO videos which take this kind of line, which I don't think is conclusive, but it's sort of it's interesting. It's an interesting aside. It's an interesting question that they ask. These are legitimate questions. But I mean, it's pretty amazing. It's pretty interesting stuff. So Gary talked about that, and Brian Forster came back and did another talk about. He did an extended talk this time. He was allowed some extra time on stage, and he talked about the ancient technology that had been discovered in various places, and the long-skulled people, the Paracas skulls. And I didn't ask him, but his wife was sitting next to me because she was running his stall, and I said to her, "Do you and Brian know about Maria Wheatley?" And I said yes, because I was going to tell them if they hadn't heard of Maria Wheatley and her research, I was going to tell them. Because it's very important. Because Maria has discovered there are long-skulled people in Britain, so that they weren't just in South America. They're actually graves of long-skulled people in Britain. But this is a huge hidden part of our archaeology and our ancient mysteries. These long-skulled people. Maria had to get special permission to go onto the Defence Training Estate in Salisbury Plain and investigate a burial mound from just before Stonehenge was built, and she found the graves of long-skulled people. And it appeared that there was some kind of war between the long-skulled people and the round-skulled people. The round-skulled people are us, which we of course won because we killed them all. Well, not me personally, you know what I think about white guilt and all that sort of thing. And that applies to all kinds of guilt in those circumstances. So I don't feel any shame or need to apologise for that. It's just a fact of history. It's just a fact of the past. We killed them, the humans, the modern humans, the round-skulled people killed them all. But the graves there, and this has been covered up. Well, it's been ignored and covered up. I mean, ignored. I mean, you see, you can see the damn skulls. They were collected and they were put into into a storage place in Oxford, at the science area in Oxford, where I live. They're just a couple of miles from where I live. So you can go and see them, but people aren't interested. Maria went to see them. I know this because Maria went to visit this museum and she wanted to see the skulls, and they said sure. She had to get a letter of permission from someone, but she did manage to get the necessary permission to see the skulls. And she had to sign in a little book to say that she's seen these skulls. These skulls were dug up sometime in the 19th century, and they'd be kept in Oxford, and various people examined them. However, what's the time? Just going to check the time. I have to leave soon. However, the last entry in this book was in 1928. That was the last time an expert even looked at these skulls. 1928. That's how much time has been lost. Maria is the first person to look at these things since 1928. Oh, God. But Michael Friedman was right in his book Forbidden Archaeology. He really was. Okay, so that was the second day. I've got some souvenirs, the hat I just showed you, and Gary gave me this. It's an old poster here with all the people on here. See? And that Alan Godfrey, of course, wasn't there. There was Dion. There was Dave Hodrin instead. And these are all speakers. Excellent, isn't it? There's Steve Leggero, the new guy who's speaking out. There he is. There. That's good on my wall when I get home, if I can find room for it. Trigger warning. Trigger warning. The following opinions are very problematic, offensive, and inappropriate. Trigger warning. And I want to close by saying a few words about an issue to do with the conference, which I talked about on Hapanwo Radio. I'm tempted simply to play the audio that I played on Hapanwo Radio, and I might even include it after this section because I probably won't get all the points I want to make in right now. And that is to do with women. Now, you may have noticed here we have a hashtag all-male panel. And Larry has been criticised for this. This has happened before. There was another conference where he had an all-male lineup, and he suffered some quite harsh criticism for this from people who thought that, out of some principle, he ought to have ring-fenced a couple of the speakers' places for female speakers. Which, when it actually comes down to it, he's had many female speakers. He's had Pia Knudsen. You know, he's had. What's her name? Christine Hansen. Sorry, not Pauline Hansen. What's her name? Oh God, somebody Hansen. What's her name? New Zealand lady. I'm sorry, I've got having a poetry moment. Suzanne Hansen. Sorry, Suzanne. I know she's on Facebook. She's watching this. Apologies, Suzanne, if you're watching, and several others. And I've had now. This is an issue that I've had a debate about with several people. Most famously, Paola Harris on the old Planet X show. Now you can actually listen to this debate if you go to Planet X on YouTube. The old programs are still there, and it's there. No, it was good natured. I'm still on good terms with Paola about this, but we totally disagreed about this. She said, "I'm a woman in ufology, and it's been a struggle. It's been a struggle." And I said, "Well, Paola, you know, I've been to 2 conferences where you've been to. You've been treated as an honoured guest. You've been made very welcome. You've been given a platform. You're one of the most successful and accomplished people in this field. Everywhere I go, people speak very highly of you. You're very widely respected. What's the nature of this struggle you've had to face?" And she said, "I was one of only 6 women in the conference." And I said, "Okay, what's the nature of the struggle you've had to face?" And she couldn't answer me. But this is, I suppose this ties into a bigger subject related to feminism and the female victimhood narrative. This universal female victimhood. And no doubt this is going to be controversial. Some of you are now reaching for the unsubscribe button. Go ahead and press it, I don't care. All right. But there's this kind of idea, and you get this universally throughout society actually, whenever in any institution where men outnumber women, there's this cry goes out, "Something is wrong here! Something needs to be fixed! Why are there more men than women here?" And interestingly, it doesn't work the other way around, I've noticed. I mean, along with ufology, I'm very interested in spiritualism, and I go to several spiritualist events. Now, in spiritualism, women phenomenally outnumber men, decisively outnumber men, by probably 5 to 1. Yet I have never found it a struggle. I've never felt that I need to see myself as a victim of some kind of oppression or discrimination. I've never felt uncomfortable in spiritualism. I think it's because these double standards, I think, are part of the feminist agenda, which I've talked about before, to mess with people's minds, especially women, but men's also. To mess with our minds, to make us angry, to make us hate other people, to make us hate ourselves. I've done entire videos on this, I don't need to repeat myself. You know, there's someone else I know I'm very fond of in the community who has taken this bait. She's drunk this Kool-Aid, and she said something about misogyny, and I was like, misogyny in the community. And it was Thomas Sheridan asked about misogyny in the community, which was obviously a wind-up because Thomas is sort of like on my side on this, and she went, yeah, that's right, Thomas. Yeah. But I think she and Paola both have this impression that ufology consists of this cabal of cackling, hand-rubbing male chauvinists who sit in a circle thinking, how on earth are we going to keep women out of our world here? How are we going to preserve our boys' club? How are we going to keep this male space that we have? I think do they actually believe we do this? And of course, the feminists would say, no, it's not that. It's kind of it's something under the surface. It's something. It's a dog whistle. It's subconscious. You know. It's some. Of course, as Stephen Molyneux said the other day, and if you go through a doorway and there's no door, and you can see that there's no door there. There's some marks on the door frame where you see hinges used to be attached, where there used to be a door, and you walk through the door and it says, well, there's no door here. But then someone comes up to you and says, no, there is a door there. It's just, it's a tacit door. It's an implicit door. It's the kind of door that operates under the surface. And and you say, but look, there's no door there. Oh, but you can't see the door because you are not a dedicated anti-doorist. You're an evil doriarch. Okay. Whenever you have that kind of conversation with people, the only answer is, look, is there a door there or is there not? And if you start talking about that, well, there's a tacit, implicit dog whistling door there. Well, which is more likely? The answer to that is, look, really, or is it just simply more likely there's no door there? You see what I mean? I mean, I might play the audio because I put this so much better on a Panway radio the other day. So, but then, what someone said to me once, this second lady I talked about, and when I brought this up once, and she showed me and she said, look, Ben, look at the lineup of speakers here. This was for a different conference. There are 8 speakers here, there's only one woman. What does that tell you? What does that tell you? And I said, well, you've just pointed out a fact. You've pointed out a fact is that men outnumber women in the UFO Paracon circuit, okay? Men outnumber women, that is a fact. But you are assuming a cause to that fact. You're assuming there's some kind of pathology. The reason men outnumber women is because of something's gone wrong somewhere, something needs to be fixed, as I said. Has it occurred to you there may be another reason why men outnumber women, and which is actually benign? I said, well, what? And the reason men are, and I didn't say this. Next time I see her, I will say this. The reason I think men outnumber women in ufology is to do with human biodiversity. Everyone's very keen on equality in this world today, and equality, though, is a very Orwellian term. We're sort of in a world where everybody's equal, but some people are more equal than others. And if I go in a minute, I might have to hold. I've got time to finish this. I've got to go and catch my coach home. And I think this is the position we're in now. We're in this position now. Where was I? Hold on. Yeah, if you take a group of 10 people, and 5 women and 5 men, and you ask them, how many of you have an interest in UFOs? Put your hand up. You'll probably get equal results if you do blocks of 10 people along on a survey. If you take 1 million men and 1 million women, you will find that interest in UFO Paracon subjects is far more prevalent in the male side than the female. And this is to do with when generalising across an entire population, there are differences between the way men and women generally think. This does not mean there are no exceptions. I don't like the idea that men and women are reduced to components in a political dynamic. I said this in my BBC talk. There are exceptions. Now, there's as far as I can see, there's nothing that prevents those exceptions from getting involved. If there was, then Paola Harris would never be as successful as she is. As I said, she's respected, she's admired, she is very accomplished. There are inequalities in life which are harmless. There are inequalities which are caused by prejudice and by discrimination. Yes, that's true, very much so. And it's not just black people and women who suffer from these. Men and white people can suffer from these as well. Not instead of, as well. But there are pathological inequalities in the world, but there are also natural inequalities, harmless inequalities, which are caused by human biodiversity. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with this, because I don't believe any exception is held back. If I saw that any exception was being held back, I would speak out against it. I promise you that. For example, I used to play basketball a long time ago when I was at school, and well, I was not the only white guy on the team, but I mean, it did seem they did tend to be on the black side. I noticed this, and of course, at school it's more varied. But when you get up into the realm of professional basketball, you find that it is very black indeed. And at no point does anyone say to any basketball team, "Look, you guys need some diversity. You need to sign up some white men." No one ever says that. And so that, again, the reason basketball teams tend to consist of black players is because of another harmless inequality, a harmless and natural inequality, which is that black people, generalising across the population, tend to be better at this particular sport. If I was the coach of a basketball team, I'd be quite happy to have an all-black team. I would absolutely be an all-black squad. I would absolutely be fine with that because I know they'd be more likely to win. So that's my position on this. Please post the comments below saying sexist, racist, misogynist, etc., etc. if you want. Okay, but you're wrong. You're misjudging me. And now I'm going to have to go. So if there's any other commentary I want to make on this particular conference, I'm going to have to make it later because I haven't packed my luggage and I've got a coach to catch. So see you later. After consideration, I have decided to include the audio that I refer to in this particular segment. This is the audio that I included in my interview with Gary Heseltine on Hapanmo Radio a few weeks before the Truth Magazine conference. This is where I discussed the issue of women in ufology. I include a lot of points that I forgot to mention in that particular video segment, and I want to include it because it is such an important issue and I want to be able to articulate it properly. So this is it. It's just a few minutes long and I think it lays out my position very clearly. And now I'd like to add a few words to this feature at the end. And this is my own personal feelings about some of the criticism that has been levelled at Gary, not just at this conference, but at previous conferences as well. Now, some of you may have noticed that for these two conferences that we've just been talking about, you will have, in terms of the speakers, an all-male lineup. All the speakers are men, every single one of them. And this is going to renew the various critics who have said to Larry that, you know, where are the women? You've got no female speakers. Oh my goodness me, are you some kind of misogynist? I'm triggered. Well, this is goes back to a debate I've had with several people. Specifically Paola Harris, who, if you remember, this is quite famous. We were both on the Planet X show and we had a debate about this because she was basically making the same complaint, that there are not enough women involved, and so therefore it's wrong to actually have a speaker lineup without any women. Now, the criticism I have of that is that these people are essentially saying we need to socially engineer conferences to put them in line with feminist principles, and that's a big subject about how the downside of feminism and the dangers of feminism and what it can do and what it's being used for in terms of mind control and things like that. But I can assure you that any attempt to do such a thing would be a big mistake. I mean, I've heard people say we need balance. The words are used as something like balance or diversity or things like that. Well, what a lot of these people are talking about basically is the need to force a balance. Now, forcing a balance in this regard would be incredibly destructive, because you see, more women can be translated as fewer men. And there are no definitions about exactly how many women mean enough women. And but however many it is, you then have to put a cap on the number of men who can speak at a conference. This means that there may be occasions when you won't invite someone or even ban someone from speaking at a conference because they're a man. This is extremely Orwellian. Now, firstly, I would say that Gary has actually had plenty of female speakers at his conferences. Pia Knudsen, Suzanne Hansen, Mary Rodwell. I mean, the idea that somehow women's voices are not being heard in ufology is rubbish. Women's voices are being heard whenever women have anything interesting to say. Now, men considerably outnumber women in ufology, and they always will. And it's not because of any evil, hand-rubbing, male-chauvinist conspiracy to keep ufology a men's issue, a boys' club, whatever you want to call it. It's not because of that. It's biology. It's a perfect, natural, harmless inequality, which you often get in life. Okay, it's the same reason why, for example, if you go to a basketball team, you may find they are on the black side. Have you noticed that? And no one ever goes up to them and says, look, we need more diversity on this team. We need more balance. You need to sign up some white guys, please. No, of course you don't do that, because black people are naturally better at basketball. If I was the manager of a basketball team, I'd ideally want an all-black team, because I know they would win. They'd be more likely to win. Natural inequalities are harmless. The reason they're harmless is because no individual is held back by them. I've never heard of any instance where this happens. I think the idea that because there are fewer women in ufology than there are men, the idea that this is because of some kind of pathology, the idea something is wrong here, something needs to be fixed, it's an assumption that there's some kind of pathology involved which is creating this situation. But it's not a pathology. There are differences between people. People are not all exactly the same. Not everyone is not equal. We're not all cardboard cutouts. So, for example, if you take a group of 10 people, 5 men, 5 women, you'll probably find that there is the number of people who believe in ufology, belief in UFOs and other paranormal subjects, probably it'll be about spread even between the two different sides of that group. However, if you take 1 million men and 1 million women, you will find that UFO awareness and paranormal awareness and conspiratorial awareness is far more prevalent within the male group. That is simply the fact. UFOs are blokey. It's a blokey thing. So when you're generalizing for totally benign and organic reasons, the subject is far more likely to appeal to the male psyche than the female. It's part of what makes us different. Now, there's nothing wrong here. This is an assumption. It is a falsehood. It is a delusion. And I've told Paola Harris this. I've told many other people this. There is absolutely nothing precluding a woman who wants to get involved in ufology from doing so if she chooses. And I've already talked about the enormous contributions to ufology women have made. Paola herself is one of the biggest superstars in the field. Everywhere I go, she's widely respected. I've been to 2 conferences where she has attended. She's been treated as an honoured guest. Isn't that enough? Why do you want more? And who can forget, of course, the 4 horsewomen of Rendlesham Forest: Butler, Street, Randalls, Bruni. Now, but you hear this all the time. You hear, wherever you go where men outnumber women, the cry goes up, whether it's computer game fan clubs or university departments. It's dominated by men. Something has to be done to change that. You hear that all the time, and it's completely wrong. It's an assumption because, well, I've talked before about this sort of thing, and about it's a big subject. But watch my BBC video on YouTube. I go into that in great detail. Nothing needs to be fixed because nothing is wrong. I am not, if I heard of any woman being mistreated at a conference, I would do something to stop them, and I know that Gary would as well. But the fact of the matter is, this is simply human biology. You're going to have to, and those who are exceptions have to face being exceptions, and they have to learn to find peace with being exceptions. I've had to do that because I'm interested in spiritualism as well as ufology. And when I go to a spiritualist event, it's more than 3/4 women. The majority of mediums are women. But it never occurs to me that I need to complain about that. It never occurs to me that I'm some kind of victim of discrimination as a result of that. It never occurs to me that there's some kind of pathological mindset within this group of people because there are fewer men than women. It doesn't. It's just not true. So the same goes this way round, and so therefore I don't believe Gary has done anything wrong by having an all-male lineup. We don't know how many people he might have written to asking if they could speak at the conference before he got these speakers. It's possible he wrote to some of the female ufologists as well, and they couldn't attend. In an institution which is largely dominated by one group of people or one sex over the other, you're going to get exclusive panels of people who are that one sex, and that is life, and you just have to accept it. And because of the dangers of any attempt to force a balance, as I said, any attempt to try and change this through social engineering, I will resist those people, because I know the damage it could do. It'll do the same damage as it's done everywhere else, and I've done entire programs about this, and I've discussed it many times with many people. So basically I'd say to anyone who's complaining about Gary, shut up and just enjoy the conference. Enjoy it for what it is, make the most out of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Cheers.
Can I get them back?
Yeah, cheers, thanks. Thanks very much. Cheers.
There we go. Thanks a lot.
I'm back home now. Well, I'm back in Oxford, just got to get home. It's very warm, it's actually summery now. It's weird, sort of weather's changed. It's got like, it is almost like summer here. And this is because of some weird weather that's going on at the moment. In fact, there's extreme weather going on all over the world. We've got something called Storm Helene coming our way. It's got nothing to do with St. Helena Airport. It's just called Storm Helene. And in America they've had a hurricane that's hit the coast called Hurricane Florence. In the Philippines they've had something called Typhoon Mangkhut, which has killed loads of people. In fact, they buried the entrance to a mine, and I think all the miners are dead, and they're trying to dig them out in the hope that some might be alive. 6 people have been killed, I think, in America. So it's a bit breezy, but up north it's like pouring rain and hellish winds. But the storm has dragged tropical air up into Britain. Don't know if it's geoengineering or not. Never prove it, can you? That's the thing. Plausible deniability, like I said. I wanted to add a little bit more to what Robert Fleischer was talking about, like, or to what the sort of things that Robert Fleischer goes through in Germany. And he didn't talk about this, I don't think. I had to leave the room when he was there for a short time because I had to get some fresh air. It's like part of the problem when you're running a stall. You're busy during the breaks. But as I've said many times before, you know, this the political correctness, the cultural Marxism, stuff like that, it's very extreme in Germany. They have this almost hypersensitivity to it because of the Nazis. And apparently ufology is associated with the Nazis. Being a ufologist apparently is associated with being a neo-Nazi. Now, I don't know why that is, but then there doesn't really need to be a reason, does there? You just need some somebody to say you're an arty, and then you're an arty, you know, and that's sorry, that's how it goes. It's the guy who told me this was actually a chap I met at the UFO Conference in 2011. I went to their conference in London. They did quite a good 2-day conference actually in London. Not least because they didn't have the usual sort of Fortean speakers there. They had Ross Hemsworth speaking, and Robert Hulse was there, and a couple of other interesting people as well. Now this is what's known as a tourist blockage, and you get this all the time in Oxford, and that's because we're in the tourist season still, and of course you have these huge crowds of people who want to see the city. What's easy to see what you're saying. Oh. It's quite flattering that people come from so far to see my hometown. Come from all over the world. I saw some Chinese people there, you know. It's quite something, really. Anyway, what was I? Yeah, chap at the UFO Conference, he said that he couldn't come clean, or he couldn't talk about his interest in UFOs because he thought it would get him labelled a part of the far right. Which is dreadfully unfair. Awfully unfair. I mean, the only real connection between... I mean, this could be why it is, actually. It's because there is a connection between Nazis and ufology in terms of the Nazi flying saucers. And this is... these are craft that were allegedly, well, I think it's quite likely they were built in... quite likely they were built in the 1930s and 40s in Germany, in various places, including the Skoda factory in Prague, in what's now the Czech Republic. And these were anti-gravity craft. They had anti-gravity propulsion and a free energy power plant, like the Haunebu craft. And interestingly, one of the model makers, one like Airfix, not Airfix, one of the others, came out with a model of it, which is banned in Germany. It was quite funny. But I mean, I feel sorry if he's going to be called those sort of names and have those attacks against his character because he is interested in this subject. Well, that's pretty damn awful, quite frankly. And I hope it doesn't give people ideas outside Germany of trying to do the same thing. For instance, I know that certain complaints were made to local authorities in Holmfirth about the conference, but it wasn't to do with Nazis, it was to do with Larry Warren. But luckily, Gary Heseltine is a well-respected citizen of the town, and he's well connected, and he's was on the committee of the civic hall. So basically, they told the people doing the complaints to get lost. And they were the same individuals actually did the same thing to Nigel Mortimer, because if you listen to her Panmo radio regularly, you'll know that there was going to be a sort of a week. We were going to spend a week in Rendlesham Forest doing outdoor activities with Nigel Mortimer. And that was cancelled. There was going to be some lectures and some talks, but also some hiking and some other fun things, activities. That was cancelled. But it wasn't cancelled. The thing is, Nigel wanted to go into the conference with his ghost. He wanted to go into the forest with his ghost box and do some channeling, things like that. This is a kind of like EVP type device. And somebody in the troll fraternity phoned up the Forestry Commission and warned them what he was going to do. And he was using the forest for these subversive and disreputable activities. And so, the Forestry Commission wrote back and told them that he's perfectly entitled to do that. He's perfectly entitled to use the forest for those purposes. You can use the forest for any purpose really, unless it's something dangerous like motorbike riding or horse racing. So again, -2 to the trolls. But it's just so awful that people, they will do this. They'll try to call in the airstrikes of authority, but they won't confront us directly. And I just, as I said earlier, I only remembered this actually just this morning, that I challenged one of my trolls to a meet-up, as I said, at the conference, and he never turned up. Just like Droik never turned up in Watford. I don't know, does it ever occur to these people that their behaviour is so nasty, so spiteful, so cowardly? I honestly don't think it does. I don't think they have that self-awareness to understand that.
And that was my reportage of the UFO Truth Magazine Conference 2018, the 6th International UFO Truth Magazine Conference 2018, at the Holmfirth Civic Hall in Holmfirth, West Yorkshire, UK. Just a couple more things I want to mention. Now, I've got to give a shout out to this guy. Right, this is one of the coolest new YouTubers I've come across since I did the last UFO Disclosure video. This is a chap called Ryan, and he has a YouTube channel called Post Disclosure World, and he really is a chap of my own heart, because he's really into this sort of subject really big time. And he's quite funny actually, because he has a nickname which is the UFO Jesus, and you can see why, can't you? But he has some really amazing videos, so check him out. He's got a great channel, and I always comment on there, and I always watch. And strength to your arm, Ryan. Thank you very much for covering this subject. And of course, I have to put in a shameless plug for my book, Roswell Rising, a Novel of Disclosure. Now, if you've not read this, then why not? Oh, seriously though, if you are into UFOs and Roswell and crash retrievals and exopolitics and Area 51 and all those kinds of things, back engineering, all that kind of thing, okay, all those kinds of things, this is the book for you. It's not a factual book. I mean, of course, there's enough of those. It's a fictional book. It's a novel. It's imaginary. But it's an imaginary book about something real. The same way that George Orwell wrote imaginary books, stories about things that were real. So it's allegorical fiction. It's symbolic fiction, however you like to put it. And this is really, really good. It asks the question, what if? What if we had UFO truth instead of UFO lies when Roswell happened? And what happens after that? Well, what happens after that is answered in the sequel. This is Roswell Revealed, a world after disclosure. Yeah, so it goes on from one book into a second book, the sequel, because the story continues. The story continues into a second book, so you can find out what happens next, as they say, because the original story, if you've read the first book, you'll know it's a little bit open-ended. And indeed, this second book is somewhat open-ended as well. And the reason is... So, what happens next? I have no idea. I did a radio show. I did a Panama radio show, program 301, which was called the Path to UFO Disclosure, and it was basically all about the exopolitical situation in the world today. I went into some of its history, and I provided some perspectives for its future. But perspectives are not predictions. I don't know what's going to happen, and there's so many unpredictable variables. I don't think anyone can know for sure. Maybe even UFO Jesus is not an expert on that. Even Stephen Bassett doesn't know for sure. But I think for several reasons I seem to vacillate between despair and hope at the moment. The troll crisis has, of course, got me down enormously. If you remember my video called "Is There Any Hope?" There's several other incidents that have since then have made me feel dismal. But at the same time, then something comes up to do with UFOs, and I mean it could be anything. I mean it's like the Solar Observatory shutdown, which if you remember the Solar Observatory shutdown, it was that was quite. I did a live stream on that, so I'm not going to repeat any of the points I made there, except that the government are coming out with. I should give you an update. Actually, the government came out with a little cock and bull story. Well, I'll tell you what. I'll put that. I'll add that into as a little addendum to the feature. But anything could happen at any time, which could completely throw the issue up in the air again. And one thing you know about the UFO issue is that small or just even incidental events can have enormous effect, and they can have enormous impact within the community, and they almost result in a sort of cultic viral phenomenon overnight. I mean, the Tom DeLonge stuff is an example of that. So any one of those could be the trigger point or the tipping point, whatever you call it. I don't know. It's hard to say. But check out program 301 anyway, for Panama radio, not TV, radio. I'm going to have to do more of these, obviously, just get into the momentum of doing these UFO disclosure videos again, because when I first started them in 2015, I did say, could 2015 be the year of disclosure? Well, we've had 2.5 years since then, and it hasn't happened. My disclosure champagne is still under the bed. It's when I moved into this nice new room, I took it with me. So we're just going to have to wait and see. That's all we can do. But as far as the Rendlesham Forest incident goes, there is enormous progress being made. I think the film Capel Green is going to be incredibly groundbreaking. In fact, we now have Steve Longera, who's now speaking out. I mean, that's quite a lot. Hopefully we'll get more. We're just going to get more people to speak out. I'm hoping Adrian Bustinza will come back into public. He's now gone quiet. I just hope he comes back into the public. Of course, the disinformation is going to continue. The trolls are going to continue, who are just motivated by personal animosity. They're going to keep muddying the waters too. All we can do is keep focusing on reality, on the truth, on the evidence. And if you stick with that for long enough, it has to come through. It all depends on whether you've got the staying power to stick with it. And I believe I have. Obviously, there's so much more I could say, but I will keep I'll keep that for a future video, because or a live stream. But anything could happen any time. In which case, I will cover it. I'll do my damnedest to cover it as and when it happens. So, in the meantime, keep a good lookout for the books. Roswell Rising, a novel of disclosure. Roswell Revealed, a world after disclosure. Available at all good bookshops now. If you go into a bookshop and it's not there on the shelves, it's not a good bookshop. Never shop there again. And of course, Roswell Revealed will be out soon. I'll probably do a special video about that when it comes out. You've already seen the trailer. So, yeah, when news comes in thick and fast, there may be nothing for months, or there may be something tomorrow. Either way, you will hear about it first, live and exclusive, on the sorry, I didn't go very well. On the what? On Hapanwo TV. It's no the. It's just Hapanwo TV. Sorry. Thank you for watching. Hospital Porters, Pride and Dignity. Stop the New World Order.